Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the iRacing Esports Network, and welcome to round 3 of the World GT Championship, coming you to today from Sebring in Florida. A bit more sunny Florida than what we saw at the Daytona 24 Hours at the weekend. We're getting set for 3 races with, as always, a bumper-sized grid. Well, welcome everybody to the iRacing Esports Network. Joining me in the commentary box alongside me, Adam Bath, is a man who's made a name for himself with some superb memes on the Apex Racing TV Facebook page over the last few weeks.
Thank you very much.
It's Sam Fitzpatrick. Well, it's my sense of humour. I hope it's many of our viewers and listeners as well. Sebring, I don't know if you saw the Daytona 24 Hours yesterday or on Saturday, but yeah, it's very wet there, but nothing of that nature to worry us at all here today with the 3 races that we've got coming up.
Yes, of course. I'm just looking at the weather as the session just takes over from practice to qualifying. It is, well, this is an evening race. It's about 7 o'clock in the evening, and track temperature hasn't come up for me yet. 25 degrees air temperature anyway, so it's not going to be too hot. And of course, on the topic of memes, I can't take all the credit. This series has been very meme-worthy, and I must give thanks to particularly Ben Gregory for that incident at Watkins Glen. It has been the source of much a laugh, and hopefully, well, maybe that's not on the top of our priority list today, but the racing is probably on the top, but hopefully we'll have both, and yeah, we'll remember this one for a while as the just exit the pits. I always find this part of qualifying in whatever series quite interesting because they're constantly jostling for position, the 50 cars or so, and well, it's not easy necessarily to get a clean lap in.
No, it isn't. Sebring is, in particular, a pretty narrow circuit, so it's going to be interesting to see whereabouts the overtakes get done and how important qualifying could be. Where we were last week, the reverse grid didn't really have much of an impact at Road America. Both these circuits, both of which I know that are up there with Alex Simpson's favourites, are indeed both very narrow and very difficult to get some overtaking on. But they are very quick, and I'm sure we'll see plenty of slipstreaming throughout the evening over the 3 races, the reverse grid races in particular. As the cars begin their out laps for their qualifying, it's a 15-minute session. We've got some championship standings to run you through. It's Christian Rose that leads the way. He's 8 points ahead of Core Sim Racing Sindre Setsas. 8 points between them. Christian Rose driving a Porsche 911, Sindre Setsas in a Ferrari 488. After that, it's Josh Thompson in 3rd, who had a pretty good evening at Road America last week. Started off pretty good, and ended sort of middle of the park. He finished in. He's currently in 3rd in the championship. Then Carl Janssen in 4th for Core Sim Racing. Then Michael Hall 5th. Ben Hackerson having a good race meeting. Last week he's leapt up 8 positions into joint 5th with Michael Hall. Then it's Jamie Rushworth 7th, Daniel McCauley 8th, Chris Daines 9th, and Dion Phillips in 10th. Just over 100 points separating the top 10. You can even throw Michael Evdoka into the mix there because he's joint 10th with Dion Phillips. Moving over to the AM category, it's Adam Hedgecock leading the way there, leading 4 Porsches, with Mark Woodhouse in 2nd, 26 points behind. Then Ronald Moon's 3rd, Michael Blake 4th, and Jerome Kaiser in 5th. And in the team standings after 6 races, it's CQR Race Hub leading the way, 69 points ahead of Core Sim Racing, who have jumped CQR Sim Sports up into 2nd, they're down to 3rd. CQR GT are in 4th, and then Small Time Racing in 5th, the highest of the AM teams as well, and they're just 20 points ahead of Nomad Sim Racing. So everything finally balanced going into this one. Sebring, with, as we were mentioning, with it being pretty narrow and the barriers pretty close to the circuit in some places, it could be another one like Road America where it's important to make sure that you finish all 3 races for this one.
Well, about that, it's not 3 races, as a couple of people on the chat have made very clear.
Is today the 90-minute one?
No, it's 2 hours. It's a 2-hour enduro, if that counts as an enduro. Yep. In this race, it certainly does. And so, yeah, just the 1 race. And yeah, that's the first enduro of the season. I know a few series that we cover, at least on Apex Racing TV, occasionally have these enduro races, and it does really mix up the field. Apparently 2 mandatory pit stops. The maximum amount of fuel, I believe, at least for the Porsche, is 75%. So that should be about 45 minutes. So yeah, 2 pit stops, mandatory and necessary, I think, out there. So yeah, will be an interesting one. And of course, these cars can go slightly different on the field. I don't think that's going to make a big difference, but they should have some leeway, I believe. About 15 minutes of leeway, maybe to pull off some undercuts if they feel like it.
Well, yeah, now we have to change tack. We don't talk about the reverse grids as much as being race changes. We talk about the pit stops, and with Sebring being a very power-hungry circuit, as we've been mentioning, it'll be interesting to see whether many drivers are lifting and coasting at any point then. Right, qualifying session has just begun. The fastest lap times are in, and the first few fastest laps are in, and it's Carl Janssen that leads the way, driving for Core Sim Racing. I believe, yes he is, currently sitting 4th in the championship standings, and he's currently in provisional pole, and qualifying here could be one of the most crucial ones of the season, because as Sam was saying there, it is one of the 2-hour endurance races that we've got coming up over the season. It might be a good opportunity to run you through whereabouts we're going to in the season, because there will be a few more Enduros over the course of the year, and we'll be covering all of them. But we haven't got too long to go in this qualifying session. Yeah, so we have the Endurance 2-hour race here at Sebring today. We have a week off next week, and then after that we head to another free 20-minute sprint race format at Suzuka, followed by Monza, and then we have another 2-hour endurance race at Le Mans at the end of February, followed by another week off to recover, and then we head to the Indianapolis road course circuit, something that we don't often see too much here on our coverage on Apex Racing TV. After that we stay in North America, heading to the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, followed by a 2-hour endurance race at Daytona at the end of March. We have a week off on April Fool's Day, and then we end the season with 3 20-minute sprint races at Barber Motorsports Park at Road Atlanta, and we end the season with what should be a very entertaining evening of 3 20-minute sprint races, Sam, at Spa-Francorchamps to decide the title.
Yeah, the organisers always do a really good job of picking some the good circuits. I think they don't usually go for the generic ones. You know, there's a few generic ones arguably there, but they're all the popular ones. I don't want to name any circuits which are generic and not popular, aka Nürburgring. But it's good that the calendar keeps on getting mixed up as well. We don't always see the same circuits being used 2 seasons in a row. And yeah, the endurance races really do mix this up, and it's yeah, certainly very good. You can see this train of cars going around the circuit. The turn A isn't too bad around this track, and so you can kind of follow that tightly, and you want a little bit of a slipstream going down into Sunset Bend to help you along. And Sindre Setsas has just gone into pole position, so he's Core Motorsports, isn't he? I think so too is Carl Janssen. So those two currently locking up the front row, and then Christian Rose CQR Race Hub, and Jake Backel CQR as well in 3rd and 4th. Still waiting for a few drivers to put their times in, most notably Josh Thompson.
Indeed, yeah. Josh Thompson did pretty well at Road America last week. Yeah, it's Core Sim Racing that Sindre Setsas is driving for. Paul Smith has just come across the line, still 1:57.306. In fact, no, I lie, he's coming through the final corner. So we'll see if Paul can improve. Driving for Smile Time Racing, the Pro-Am team that currently sits in the top 5 of the overall standings. He comes across the line and does a 57.51, which keeps him in 24th place. There he is. So Paul Smith doing a pretty good job there. And we'll see who else is on a qualifying lap now as he continues round. We've just done about half of the qualifying session now. And many of the drivers, one rule that you may have noticed that since we've been starting this qualifying session is that once the drivers have finished their laps, they are allowed to stop by the side of the circuit and go straight back to the pits, and then they can go straight back out and do another flying lap. So it's not the rule that we've had before where you've had to drive back to the pits under your own power and then get the necessary fuel and change the tyres then, which can be quite costly, especially in a session as short as this, Sam.
Yes, and I know my intelligence could not cope with that one. I think it was a case in the opening rounds of the BSR Radical series, and I just forget, really. You spin, you think, oh, darn it, and you escape back to the pits. So it's very natural. We've all got used to it over the years of iRacing, so I think this is a good rule, being able to do that. And of course, in these GTEs, with how competitive these drivers are, they get the absolute maximum out of the setup. Every 100th counts. Doing 2 laps on the same set of tyres is a bit of a waste of time. So with these drivers, I expect them to do 1 out lap and then if it's a good first lap, they'll just escape back to the pits and go and get a new fresh set of tyres on, and crucially drop those tyre pressures back down so they're at their absolute optimal. Sindre Setsas trying to improve on his time. He's currently only 6/1000ths faster than Carl Janssen, and that was an outlap. So this will be his fast lap. And well, Adam, do you want to do a lap around this circuit with Sindre Setsas?
Well, he's got a Ford GT, a very wayward Ford GT to deal with first. That doesn't put him off at all as he goes through the S's here in the early part of the lap. Watch out for any of the cars on the timing tower to improve. Now out the left-hander, doesn't use too much of the exit curb. Now flying through the big bend towards the hairpin at the far end of the circuit. This is where we saw Corvette famously go skating off and ending up on the public highway to the left of your shot there. Through the hairpin, a Ferrari spun on the outside. Doesn't worry him too much. Doesn't have to slow down for it either. Now building up through the gears, up to 4th into 5th gear now. And in towards probably one of the trickiest corners on the circuit really. You've got a very high curb on the inside, which he uses a bit of there, and very bumpy on the exit. Has to get the car back over to the inside now as we go through a triple left-hand series of corners. Now hold on the brakes into tower, 90-degree right-hander. Takes a lot of that inside curb, doesn't go too far wide on the exit. Just looking at his sector times, which you don't have available to us. He's now flying through the kink. He's going to have to. This is going to have to be a good lap by Sindre Setsas, because as you can see, Christian Rose has just put his car into pole position, the CQR race up car. Sindre Setsas using all of the runoff area on the exit to get a good run. Great lap by Josh Thompson as somebody crashes on the exit there to go into pole position. He's 0.02 of a second quicker than Christian Rose. He does a, sorry, 0.2 of a second quicker. He does a 55.167. What can Sindre Setsas do? Setsas dropping down the timing screens a bit now because Ross McFarlane goes into second with a 1:55.29. Oh, and he hits the wall on the inside. And what started out as a provisional pole sitter, Sindre Setsas is going to have to tow back to the pits and get going again. But some changes at the top of the timing screen now, Sam, because we've got Josh Thompson now in first, Ross McFarlane second, and Christian Rose now into third place.
Yeah, so yeah, sets us down into 4th place. That's how competitive this series is. You kind of saw Setsas seemingly having a little bit of an edge because it was very close between him and Janssen, and all of a sudden they fall all the way down into 4th and 5th. Thompson tends to struggle to get in a lap time in the first kind of 8 minutes or so. I think he's done this now about 3 weeks in a row, but he always eventually finds it. I'm just looking at his quality times, and yeah, his first 2 laps were invalidated. It was his third, which one was the one that counts. And of course, when you can kind of get 4 or 5 laps in one of these sessions, you just need one good one in qualifying, and that's what Josh Thompson consistently achieves. And it's looking very good for pole position. But of all the races, well, I say of all the races, this is quite a good one to be fair to be on pole position, because a reverse grid isn't going to ruin it for you. But of course, 2 hours to lose it all. And of course, if he's not the fastest driver, then he's inevitably going to be put under a lot of pressure from the drivers behind, even if he is on pole. So certainly not over by any means.
See on the timing screen that Carl Janssen is currently being shown as in the pit lane. He's currently in 6th with a 55.3. We'll see if he emerges, because as you can see from the clock at the top, we have got about just 2 minutes left. So if you want to get out and start a quali lap, now's the time. Here comes Josh Thompson. He's on an outlap. Jake Blackhall, who's just gone into 2nd place with a 55.2. Fantastic lap from him. He's on an outlap as well. Ross McFarlane in 3rd. He is currently not on the circuit, I don't believe, but we'll go back to Josh Thompson, who is going into turn 1. We'll see what this Ford GT can do. In terms of the championship standings, Ford GTs are currently in 3rd and 4th with Thompson and Janssen. We've got one joint 5th with Ben Hackerson in the Radicals Online Sim Orsal car. He's in a Ford GT. And only got to go all the way back down to 13th place to find Andy Shield. So the Ford GTs in this championship are few and far between. And I'd have to say the majority of the cars in this championship are fielding the Porsche 911, which looks to be the best all-rounder. But the Ford coming into its own so far in this qualifying session, well, at least with Josh Thompson at the wheel anyway, as he builds up the speed again out of the hairpin.
Yeah, and it is relatively even, I think. I think this is probably the first track where maybe the Ferrari will come back into its own. Apparently it doesn't like long corners, and well, Road America and Watkins Glen has plenty of them. This circuit is a little bit more twisty and a few kind of more short, I don't even know, shorter radius corners. I'm not quite sure what the word is, but tighter corners basically, and relatively long straights. So it should be a lot better for it. But tell that to Josh Thompson, because in that pod he's still putting it on pole position. We've also got Michael Evdoka, who's about to cross the line. He's apparently 0.05 of a lap away from setting his time. He's currently in 7th place, the driver who hasn't, or did win a race at Road America. Where can he go here? Oh, it was invalidated. Oh, sorry about that. But there you go. Josh Thompson, I think, has gone back to the pits, if my time screen is correct. So, yeah, it's all kind of coming down. No, he is still going out there. Currently, a 55.166, his best time. CQR driver crosses the line, and, well, he improves by about quarter of a tenth there, which I'm sure he'll be satisfied with. Still less than a tenth ahead of everyone else's. Now, the drivers can only complete the lap they've already started.
Checker flag is out. Yeah, we'll see if Sindre Setsas can improve. He's had a few issues since we first checked in on him to do a lap. This is where he had his incident when we did an onboard lap with him. Coming through the final corner now. His personal best, as you can see, is a 55.3. Can he improve on that and go into pole position? A 55.143 is the time to beat. Over the line goes Sindre Setsas. And does improve up into 2nd place. A 55.148. Literally 5 thousandths of a second. Yep, I'm right. I just had to count out my fingers. And 5 thousandths of a second quicker, slower than Josh Thompson. A good lap from him to end the session.
Well, I counted, at least on the iRacing one, 4 thousandths of a second. So it kind of shows how important Thompson's time was. I was certainly thinking, oh, well, he's kind of improved by quarter of a tenth unnecessarily. It was totally necessary, because he is almost certainly going to be in pole position unless car number 97, Jake Blackwell, can do something about it. His own teammate, he'll want to be on pole position. He's getting a little bit of a slipstream. Of course, it's not much of a slipstream, but it's probably 4 thousandths worth, so, you know, it can make the difference. As he turns in, Jake Blackwell doesn't want to hit the wall on the inside. I think he pretty much nailed that one. Maybe just had to get out of the throttle. Now, on the run to the line, he doesn't go straight to the line. He wants to get a little bit more slipstream. He crosses the line, Jake Blackwell. And I don't think he improved that one. In fact, it was an invalidated lap. And so he will start in 3rd place. I think Dan McCauley has just jumped up. He's up into 4th.
Yeah, Danny McCauley doing a 55.249 right at the end of the session to demote Ross McFarlane and Christian Rose at the end. Rest of the top 10 rounded out by Carl Janssen, Jamie Rushworth, Dave Baker and Chris Wood. Was that Bart Delman that just crossed the timing line there? Indeed it was. He does a 56 dead to go into 17th place in the Nomad Sim Racing car. All that means, all that leaves left is Steve Burke, who is currently on an in lap, and he's going to pull over to the side of the circuit now and pull up, and without further ado then I think we can advance into the race. A 2-hour endurance race lies ahead, and as soon as the session advances we can run you through what the grid's going to be made up with. But one thing is for certain, it's going to be Josh Thompson on the pole with Sindre Setsas driving for Core Sim Racing alongside him. Setsas 2nd in the championship, Thompson 3rd, and just 10 points between them as well, so plenty of opportunity for one of those two to either extend their lead over the other or to maybe pull away a bit. Christian Rose, the championship leader itself, 8-point lead he has going into this one, is set to start in 6th place. So here we go then. We're advancing to the race session, and let's bring up the starting grid. Josh Thompson starts on pole position then for CQR Race Sub. Sindre Setsas in 2nd for Core Sim Racing. Then Jake Blackwell 3rd, the Aussie. 4th, Daniel McCauley. 5th, Ross McFarlane. And 6th, Christian Rose. 7th for Carl Janssen, the Swede. Then Jamie Rushworth in 8th for CQR GT. CQR Race Subs, David Baker in 9th. And Chris Wood in 10th. Michael Evdoka starting in 11th place with Richard Warmingham 12th. 13th place for Ben Palmer, number 1. And then Ben Hackerson in 14th place. 2 Bens on row 7 there. Andy Shield 15th with Dion Phillips in 16th. 17th, Bart Delman. And then 18th, Jesse Stevens. Local, well, I say local, it's a home race for him, for the American. As you can see, just a second separating the top 18 or so. Jerome Kaiser in 19th place. Looks like he's one of the first of the AM drivers. And then Michael Hall in 20th. 21st place for David White. 22nd for Paul Smith, the Yorkshireman. Tom Jacobs starting in 23rd for Beast Racing, with Chris Daines in 24th. Steve Lavalley starting in 25th. Steve Burke behind him in 26th. Then we've got Michael Blake, Adam Hedgecock, and then moving on further back, Mike Gray, Mark Woodhouse, John Roberts in the boosted with Savage Gaming car, and then Ronald Moons, the Belgian, in 32nd. Stuart Atkinson leads a boosted row 16 with Stuart Atkinson and Lars van Rijn. Then Chaz Draycott starting in 35th. 36th is Rusty Laidler, and then Robert Lundgren, Jason Rowe, Lee Deemer, Morgan Butler, Josh Rayfield, Anthony Jacobson, and the last few cars rounded out by Max Spooner, Ben Gregory, Jamie Ayres, Dave Jansen, Simon Underhill, Lane O'Connor, Luke Clark and Scott Malcolm starting at the very back in 50th place. As you can see there, the last 6 cars or so not setting a time in the qualifying session. And
yeah, I'm not quite sure why that was. That could have been penalties or just not getting a valid lap in. I'm not quite sure. That seems... I don't know, to be honest. No, I'm massively out of it. Although Jamie Ayres, I think, has shown to be quite fast so far this season. He's very much out of position. Lane O'Connor actually had a very good UV8s meeting the other day, so maybe he'll be moving up the field as the drivers just pull away. It's a long pace lap here at Sebring. Why they can't just line up on the back straight before sunset, nobody knows. But there you go. It's a full pace lap, but it gives us more time to analyse what is going to happen in this 2-hour race. Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting. Of course, Setsas maybe proving my point. I'm not quite sure. Maybe he's just a very quick driver with the Ferrari up on the front row of the grid. And crucially for Thompson, he doesn't have his teammates necessarily in second and third like he had that luxury at Watkins Glen in race 1. And so, if Setsas has got the pace, I have no doubt he'll be able to really fight with Thompson very hard. And of course, Setsas as well, so far this season, at least Adam, from my point of view, he's been quite careful with the overtakes. He hasn't got caught up in any incidents so far. And, well, that served him very well. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe instead of going for the move, he just stays behind Thompson, saves a bit of fuel, and tries to get the advantage on strategy.
indeed, yeah, strategy is going to be key here as we go into, not into Sunset Bend, into the hairpin, one of the key overtaking points on the circuit, and then back out onto the quick stuff through these quick series of corners. I think one of them's named after One Mile Fangio. This is where the circuit, the club circuit, starts its races, I believe, just over here. I think we hosted a Winter Series race once where the timing line was here. It was in the BSR Rallycross Championship, I think.
I think we're going there for the BSR Radical as well. I think that's like round 11 or something. Well, I say great circuit. I have to make myself clear. I being totally sarcastic. And the camera packs provided by iRacing for this part of the circuit is mind-bogglingly bad. Like, it takes effort. Like, we're on the iRacing Esports network as well, so I don't know why I'm slagging them off. But, you know, it's not great. It's difficult to see the cars at all. But the rest of the circuit is very good. And so the full circuit has very good cameras, of course. And, of course, we're using them right now. That's just
well
showing
saved.
them off.
Well saved.
Phew.
Going through the Le Mans complex of corners. Of course, those that know, the former IMSA Sports Car Series was known as the American Le Mans Series. They had round one, the 24 Hours of Daytona, last weekend. The next race meeting for them is right here. It's the 12 Hours of Sebring. Probably the reason why we're following this format. Sebring always starts in the daytime and ends at night. And as Sam was saying at the beginning of the show, it's about 7 o'clock in the evening when the session began, and will probably be ending in total darkness, which is going to be interesting for us, and hopefully it's going to make great viewing for all of you at home as well, for these drivers getting used to racing in nighttime conditions. Sebring has hosted an F1 race before, should also mention that, but more of that in a moment, because as you can see, the cars are now going down the back straight and going into Sunset Bend, one of the trickiest corners on the circuit, just for it being so bumpy. This is a former runway. Josh Thompson's going to lead the field to the green flag now as the safety car comes into the pits. Round 3 of the World GT Championship is underway. Josh Thompson leads him into the first corner, but it's anybody's guess who's going to be in third place. Jake Blackhall getting pretty much swamped going into turn 1 see who's going to be able to hold on to it from our wide camera angle going through the first corner. It's Thompson, then Setsas. Blackwell's able to hold back everybody else. Then Macaulay, McFarlane, Rose, Janssen, Jamie Rushworth and Michael Evdoka rounding out the top 9 or so, as everybody has to filter into this very narrow series of corners, Sam, before we go into the big bends on the way towards the hairpin.
McFarlane was trying to make up a position previously. I think he's now lost out to Carl Janssen. He's up 2 positions already, passes his newest teammate McFarlane and Rose so far, and I think he's been able to make that one stick, so up into the top 5, and he was electric last time at Road America. Wasn't fantastic in qualifying. You can see he's already onto the back of Dan McCoy. Certainly watch out for Carl Janssen, of course, former champion. Michael Evdoka already up 3 positions. Great start for him in the pit side machine, as he's very late on the brakes, almost making contact with the car ahead, but he will just about make that one stick. And yeah, making that 8th place. He's up ahead of Jamie Rushworth. Christian Rose, the championship leader, now the next one for the Ferrari driver.
Good start by everybody. Just looking at the back, apart from Dave Janssen, who started from the pit lane, I don't think many other cars have been involved in too much contacts here. Bart Delman involved with Andy Shield, who I think might have gone off at Tower Bend because he's just lost 3 positions. Shield dropping down to 18th place. There he is in the CQR Sim Sports cars. We go through the Le Mans complex of corners. Now out onto the back straights, one of the quickest parts of the circuit. Going into
very close between the leaders, sorry.
Yeah, as well. Yeah, Josh Thompson and Sindre Setsas going for the lead, Sam, going into the final corner.
Yeah, Setsas is going to try to go around the outside. This is very ambitious. I thought he was just going to stay behind. He has proven me wrong. And, well, he's trying to get the really good run, and I think he is going to get a lot of momentum. It's almost impossible to defend down into turn 1, because you can see how wide the circuit goes. Thompson goes to the inside. He'll drag himself out to the outside, and Setsas, there is no room there. He's trying to go down the inside, almost making contact with the wall, making contact with Thompson. Then Thompson's off the circuit, but Sindre Setsas is going to take the lead at Sebring. That's a really well-executed move. He was not holding back whatsoever, desperate to get the lead early on, and now we've got a 3-0 battle for the win.
What a fantastic opening lap. Hopefully we've got this for the next 2 hours or so. At the end of the opening lap, then it is Setsas leading, Thompson second, then it's Blackwell, Macaulay, Janssen, McFarlane, Christian Rose, and then Michael Evdoka rounding up the top 10 as we go into the hairpin. You can see which drivers have gained how many positions. Good starts from Setsas. We saw him how he got the lead. Then Janssen, and then Evdoka and Hackerson all gaining positions in the opening exchanges out of the top 20. It's just Andy Shield that has lost the biggest amount of positions. He's down 3 to 18th place as the field starts to set into a rhythm now as we go through into Tower Bends again on the second lap of the race, and the natural light starts to ever increasingly fade.
Yes, I did Google what sunset is in Florida on this date, the 14th of May. I was hesitant to say sunset Sebring because, of course, that would come up with the corner, of course. Yeah, it's 8 o'clock or 7:59. So we're going. The last quarter of now is going to be after sunset. So you're absolutely right, Adam. It is going to be getting darker and darker as the event goes on, and yeah, it is going to be pretty dark by the end of it. Bart Daleman, riding on board, he's one of the few drivers around him who hasn't changed positions. In fact, only Jake Blackwell and Dan McCauley haven't changed positions in the top 20 along with himself. Got past Andy Shield, but passed by Ewan Kaiser, Team Mad driver, and Nomad will close in. Everyone being very kind to one another. It's just about 0.4 of a second between every single driver out there. They're getting themselves into a rhythm, and it's very admirable as we see drivers going wildly off the circuit. That these drivers have not got too aggressive and caused a pile up in these first few corners, because well, we quite often see that in endurance racing.
Indeed, yeah. So good battles in the midfield. Bart Delman, Belgian. Jeroen Kaiser is a Dutchman, and I think Kaiser is one of the highest Pro-Am drivers that we've got in the field so far. As you can see, every car filtering going through the hairpin. One of the Small Town racing cars, I think it was Chris Wood, just locking up on entry into the hairpin. He's lost 2 places since the start. Behind him is, ahead of him, sorry, is Ben Hackerson, who had a good race meeting at Road America last week, gained 8 positions in the championship standings, and I'll be hoping for better things here. Obviously, we've got a long way to go in this one, so 11th place isn't too shabby for him. but he's gained 3 places in the early going and is now starting to turn his attentions to a man that needs no introduction in the World GT circle of drivers anyway. Dave Baker has won a touring car championship in the BSRTC and has done well in this championship as well. Won a thriller of a race at Monza a few seasons ago, where I think he went from about 7th or something on the last lap to 1st, but he's hoping to crack into the top 9 here, as he is 0.3 of a second away from Jamie Rushworth as we go down the back straight now. Yeah,
of course, those two are teammates as well, so well, will they work as a team or will they be fighting amongst each other? I think they've got to fight, although giving a lot of room there. It's go first, no you, and well, finally, it seems as though Dave Baker does take the invitation and is up into the top 9. Jamie Rushworth now down 2 positions, being overtaken by Ev Docker and Baker, and you can see they just lost a little bit of time. So this does make sense, and maybe Rushworth will be able to stay in the slipstream and will be dragged up to the drivers ahead. Of course, no one's fighting amongst each other out there. They're just settling in right now. They're very happy with their positions. They know it's a long race, and so the drivers on the fringes of the top 10 kind of want the leaders to fight amongst each other, and then that will back them up and give them a chance. But well, instead everyone's just being very civil at the moment, and the field is just gradually spreading out.
Jamie Rushworth has won a BSRTC title as well back in season 4. That was all the way back in 2014, approaching 5 years now since he took the title. Still a regular in that series, occasional driver on a Thursday night. Doing relatively well here in 10th position, as you've been saying. Has lost 10 positions to the starters and lost another one on that last lap with Dave Baker getting by. Next up for Dave Baker is Michael Evdoka, but Sam was saying just at the beginning of the lap how the pack's now starting to fill out a little bit. 1.7 seconds is the gap you can see there between Evdoka and Dave Baker in 9th. So here is Michael Evdoka. He's at the tail end of what you could probably call the lead group, and on his list is Christian Rose, who has lost the place since the start of the race, but will have to move a little bit further up because it looks like Josh Thompson has either got a slowdown penalty or he's made a mistake on the exit of the penultimate corner, because as you can see, the CQR race up car has drifted back into 5th position. Let's see what happens to Tomo then.
Yeah, that'll be a slowdown. The one before that, I think. Oh yeah, it must have been that one then. That's harsh. Yeah, or straight away on the off the thought. So it's annoying for Thompson because he was keeping up with Setsas with ease, and now all of a sudden he's behind a lot of quick drivers. Jake Blackhall and Dan McCoy might be his teammates, so that might not be too bad. Problem is, between him and them is Dave Janssen. Sorry, not Dave Janssen, Carl Janssen. I will make that mistake plenty of times this season. And well, Carl is one of the fastest drivers out there. Of course, Setsas' teammate, so he's not going to let Thompson pass easily whatsoever. But these three now really closing in on one another. Macaulay ahead of Janssen, so by about 0.2 of a second. And will Janssen just look to the inside? Can go for a bit of a lunge into that hairpin. Not quite, but we saw Janssen super aggressive last week at Road America with the overtakes. You would think he's going to be similar, I think, right now, because he wants to keep in touch with the race leader, Sindre Setsas.
You could understand his aggression at Road America last week, of course. It was a very limited time frame for him to get to where he started, which was probably in the midfield after what happened to the reverse grid. I think he got 3 podiums out of 3 at that one last week.
Yes.
When he spoke to in that one. He'll be hoping to get the same here today. He's just 1 place away from the podium, and he's got his sights set firmly on it as we look from the helicopter. That's Daniel Macaulay in the CQR Sim Sports car that's directly ahead of him as we go through the Le Mans complex of corners. The cones on the outside that will get obviously pummeled to death during the evening. Remember in the FA Cup this weekend, Manchester City's Twitter did a rest in peace message to their corner flag, which got taken out. I'm sure many obituaries will be written to the cones that will be taken out in this one. And as the drivers head into the sunset, it is Macaulay, then Janssen, then Thompson as they go under the bridge and back onto the front straight again.
Just running a little bit wide there, Janssen's just given Thompson half an opportunity, flashing his lights. It's not really going to help him too much. Better to do that in the braking zone. Might just pay his rival off, although I seriously doubt Carl Janssen is going to fall for that one. it always staggers me how close they get to that concrete wall. Of course, they're constantly understaying, constantly sliding away from that, and you're basically aiming for it, and you're just hoping that the car won't grip, and well, you should just about miss it, but it takes a lot of courage, as once again, they're super close around this part of the circuit, and I think if Jansen's going to get this one done, he's really got to just, you know, send it, and you know, I've been saying so far, you know, don't get into an instant in a 2-hour race early on, and this is still very early on, but I'm losing patience, so I imagine Carl Jansen might be losing patience as well, because he's clearly quicker, he's not benefiting that much with the fuel, he just needs to find a way to get past, but there's not one clear opportunity here at Sebring.
Really isn't, and Carl Jansen is really starting to give Danny McCauley some grief. He's going to try into tower here, up the inside he goes, and the Core Sim Sport car just about gets it done, and Josh Thompson's going to follow him through into fourth place as well. So Danny McCauley, he gets Carl Jansen up the inside of him going into tower, then has to get on the brakes on the exit, and now Josh Thompson's the one applying the pressure. The CQR Race Hub car's trying to get third place back now as we go through the Le Mans complex, and he's going to go for it straight away up the inside, wasting no time. 2-4 GTs battling away here, and this is music to Jake Blackwell's ears, because the Australian has now got a 1.6 second advantage over the two Fords and the Porsche as well, going down the back straight.
Yeah, he's really benefited from this, but I don't think it's going to last too long, because Jansen and Thompson are going to be very quickly closing him in. I think they've got about 0.3 of a second on him. So yeah, expect Jansen to be closing in. Of course, Jansen started this race in 7th place. He's not the best qualifier, it seems, but in the races he's absolutely electric, and this is how it happened. Just running a little bit wide there was McCauley, and Jansen just waiting, go to the outside, yet piling it down the inside, and of course there was nothing McCauley could do. To be fair to McCauley, gave him a lot of space, and he was really unfortunate that Jansen got a bit of a slide, kind of stops on the exit of the corner, and that's what allowed Thompson to, and almost allowed Thompson up into the podium places, but wasn't quite enough, and you can see he tries to go for a move into this one. He takes such a wide turn in, but I think that was probably wise there from Thompson. Didn't want to pick up another slowdown, and didn't want to make contact, of course.
Good battle between those three there. Some good racing in the early stages. In terms of cars that have been into the pits, I think Ben Hackerson has been in. He's down in 48th place, no idea why, but we were just talking about him earlier on, and yeah, that's not going to do his race too much good unless he's gone for a unconventional strategy. Then that's going to be interesting. Going through Tower Bend, you just saw why it's called Tower there. You saw the huge structure standing to the left of the 90-degree right, and that is what the corner is named after here. Looking at Michael Evdoka, he is at the back of this train, but he has got a CQR Race Hub car right in front of him. It's Christian Rose, who has lost one position since the start of the race, but he might be about to lose two as the Ferrari starts to loom large in the mirrors. Evdoka, the third highest Ferrari in the field. Sindre Setsas, the highest, being in the lead. Then it's McFarlane in 6th, and then it's Evdoka himself in 9th in the Fitstyle Motorsports car, the highest Fitstyle car in the field. Now going into the final corner. See what he can get on the exit and down the front straight. He's got that TV screen, which we don't get to see as a spectator, but as a driver, that camera definitely works, and it definitely tells the drivers what the view is like behind. And Evdoka, the view for him will be pretty nice, because he's got a 1.1 second advantage to David Baker behind him, so all he'll be seeing is clear track, and he won't need to look at it at all really, unless he gets past Christian Rose, and then he'll have a Porsche 911 to keep him company in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd rather see Christian Rose behind him than in front of him, though. And yeah, we really want that 7th place. It's great to see, of course, these drivers. This is the battle from 3rd to 8th. Just comparing lap times between Jake Blackwell. Blackwell did a 56.27, Evdoka 56.95. So you can see those that pack is gradually going to be spreading out. At the moment, it's still relatively close. And if anything, Rose just losing touch, isn't he, on this lap? Losing touch with Ross McFarlane, who wants to get past Daniel McCauley, it seems. He's doing pretty well keeping up to Josh Thompson. It's very difficult to call this one. And of course, all these drivers in this big pack of cars are going to be saving a lot of fuel. It's going to allow them to do an extra few laps or take have a slightly quicker pit stop. I think those pit stops are going to be absolutely fascinating. Expect them to pit in latest with this slipstream about 50 minutes into the race, earliest potentially about half an hour into the race. So still a while away, but yeah, it's going to be really interesting for someone like Abduka. Does he just stay out as long as possible, or does he try to undercut all these drivers, hope they battle, and all of a sudden he could be in the podium places? Plenty of opportunities.
Is it going to be as straightforward as they're all going to be coming in at a set time, or with these GT cars, it means that we're probably going to see them not all following the same rule book and them coming in at many different times during the race?
Well, I think the cars can go about 45 minutes with 75% fuel allowed, so about 45. So you can kind of work out the maths that they've got about 15 minutes of wiggle room. 45, 1 hour 30, and then 2 hour 15. It's only a 2-hour race, so yeah, they can potentially do about a quarter of an hour undercut, and of course then they'll have to do 2 full stints after that, or they can go as far as possible, and maybe their last pit stop will only be for half an hour. And of course, either they could even do maybe 3 40-minute stints. That's certainly an option. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what tactics these guys deploy, because right now when you're in a pack like this, it's certainly worth trying something different, like taking a little bit less fuel at your first pit stop.
Thompson is looking at the inside of Carl Janssen here, going into the right-hander. Janssen didn't really defend too much going into that right-hander, but he's definitely been left at a bit of a disadvantage going into tower. Is Thompson going to do what Janssen did a few laps ago to Daniel McCauley? No, he doesn't. But that Ford GT is really starting to become a bit of a menace. The core sim racing car going past the right-hander, which is where the ESR Rallycross layout went. Now hard on the brakes into the Le Mans complex, using all of the curbs there. Thompson, of course, used a bit too much curb earlier on, got a slowdown penalty as a result. Thompson closing up there and running out a little bit wide on the exits. Now the drivers race headfirst into that sun. You can just see it to the right. And riding on board Josh Thompson as he now starts to close the gap in the slipstream. Even with the very long straights here at Sebring, it's just not long enough for the CQR race-up car to close the gap, and he's going to have to set his sights about getting past Setsas, sorry, not past Setsas, past Janssen, some of a point on the circuit as we come across the line. Let's see what lap times they do. 56.533 for Janssen, 56.463 for Josh Thompson. So 10th of a second quicker for the man from the Isle of Man. And we'll see if he can get past the Swede, Carl Janssen, as we look right into the diffuser of the number 92 Pro driver. Got a good run there.
Yeah, that's he's super close now, Thompson. We know how good his racecraft is, or certainly in my opinion his racecraft is fantastic. He's got plenty of experience in this league. Second place last season, I believe, in this championship. Lost out to Nicole Foggy, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. I think he's doing the rest of the season. We have seen him about, but has had a little bit of a struggling start. Still fighting very hard in the BSR Radical series. I think he's pretty much third in the championship in that, including the drop scores. And also the UOV8s, him and Johnny Brands, I think, tied on about 317 points currently. Pretty incredible, that one. Of course, both of them you can find on Apex Racing TV. But Thompson's still getting closer and closer. Of course, he's also running in a few other series. As Scott Malcolm, he's quite far down, isn't he? Is he laps down? Or... not quite sure.
He started at the back of the field.
No, sorry, he is on the lead lap. Apologies.
He's gained 7 positions. There's this car here that he's got to get by. Not too sure who it is that he's got to get by there. I think it might be a laps boosted car. As the time screen goes absolutely mental. It's Max Spooner, isn't it? Yeah. So problem for him there. But Scott Malcolm running a bit down the order, a bit on his own as well. Back into the midfield. Here is Richard Warmingham. He's lost 2 positions since the start of the race, but he's got cars around him. In front and behind, he's got Dion Phillips just ahead there in 13th place, and Bart Delman behind him as well. So quite a few cars for company, and your own Kaiser just a little bit further back has got Andy Shield just in front of him as well. Shield has spin.
Oh, Thompson. Oh, he was falling down the order. I thought it was just my timing screen going wrong, but he's lost so much time there, Josh Thompson. An awful day at the office so far from after taking pole position. He's down into 21st place well, it should be a fun race for him from here, but I'm sure he won't be thinking about it in that way. And it seems as though it was an attempted move then on Carl Janssen, which has failed. Yeah. And he's, well, could have gone up to second place. He's down into 21st.
It looks like he tries to get the inside of him, checks up and then lost it under braking. That's probably as good as we're going to find a replay of it for Josh Thompson. But the one thing that is in his favour as he gets going again in 21st place is that we've only done 20 minutes of this race, so he's got plenty of time to try and close the gap again. Jerome Kaiser, back to him. He's in 17th place. Got Andy Shield in front of him as we go on board with the Dutchman. Going through the complex of corners here. And he's got the Ford for company. See if he can get a move done here going into Tower Bend. Here it is, the right-hander. Gets the power down, a little bit of a tank slapper there on the exit before shifting up into third gear. What this does mean, Sam, is that Sindre Setsas has now got a very healthy 3.8 second advantage over Jake Blackhall. Then Carl Janssen is in third, and Daniel McCauley, looking at the timing screens anyway, has been able to fill the void that Thompson left behind. It's just 0.2 of a second, 0.3 of a second in fact between those two.
Yeah, Janssen, well, it wasn't good, but Setsas just is faster than everyone else by about 0.3 of a second every single lap. Too found that one. He decided to disprove my point because Janssen was actually the fastest driver. But Setsas has consistently been in the low 56s, whilst pretty much everyone else has been in the mid 56s. There just seems to be almost no chance for anyone out there. Setsas well on course for a second race victory of the season. And of course, this would be by far the most important and points yielding, I believe, and we'll probably put him into the lead of the championship as well, because still very early stages in the championship and this race. But right now, he looks absolutely unstoppable, does the 34 car. And of course, proving my point earlier on that the drive will be good down here. Of course, McCauley is now the head of this pack. Janssen has pulled away as we kind of expected. So yeah, he's now holding up McFarlane. Rose just staying in touch, and Evdoka failing to really push Rose quite as much as he was earlier on. He is very much just spreading out still. McCauley, yeah, really under pressure from McFarlane. He's looking very strong as the privateer.
Starts to get ever darker here around Sebring International Raceway, and the fight before best of the rest is definitely on now as we hit the loud Porsche 911 there, driven by Danny McCauley. Bit of flame going out the back of the exhaust there, I think we saw from the gearbox camera that we're riding on board with. And they look back to the Ferrari behind as we go down the back straight into the sun. I'm looking at Ross McFarlane now, who is in the same position as where he started, the Scotsman, and now turning into Sunset Bend, which is where Josh Thompson spun off earlier. Thompson now is in 21st place. I don't think he's gained any places since, but we'll keep an eye on it and watch out for him encroaching into the timing tower at the left-hand side of your screen, because that is where he'll start to appear if any of the cars drop down the order, as McCauley and McFarlane go through the first corner. Last time round it was a 56.4 for McCauley, 56.41 for Ross McFarlane, so just 100th of a second in it between those guys now as we go back onto the short straight towards the hairpin.
And on that lap, McCauley was the fastest driver. We haven't seen that all day. It's just absolutely crazy. In fact, Rushworth in 9th was the fastest driver, faster than the race leaders. I don't know what Setsas's times have just dropped off by about 0.2 of a second in the past few laps. As with most drivers out there, I think that we've got a little bit of overcast. The track getting a little bit cooler, 26 degrees at the moment. But yeah, not going to be making a massive difference for these drivers. But yeah, they can't stop pulling away from one another, and the gaps are all kind of staying quite static now. McFarlane really hasn't got close enough yet, but now maybe this is his opportunity. McCauley with a mistake, and now McFarlane is going to be pulling alongside, but he can't quite get alongside. Where he looks to the inside into this next one. Just need to stay really close, so he might just be able to have a chance into this very wide turn in. Not quite, and now he's got to line it up for Sunset Bend. He's really stayed close there as Ross McFarlane, the number 127 driver. 1.5 tenths between two of them, 1 tenth between the two of them. You'll see the concrete wall approaching them. Has to go to the outside. He's going to have to muscle his way around the outside. Christian Rose tries to get involved just behind. But for now, the status quo remains. And, well, this four now getting closer and closer to one another.
Great battle between those two, and they're allowing Christian Rose and Michael Evdoka to start closing in as well. Evdoka, one of the biggest movers inside the top 10. Him and Carl Janssen both gaining 4 spots since the start of the race, as Janssen ran a little bit wide there. That's why his name was illuminated in red briefly. The cars at the bottom of the timing tower that are shown in red, they're the ones that are currently racing in the Pro-Am category, and that's why they are doing that. As we go onto the back straight again, Andy Shield putting in a new personal best. You can see his lap time light up in green there. That was a 57.0. Now on the brakes into the hairpin. Haven't seen too many cars attempting moves into here. And he locks a brake up. Danny McCauley ends up gifting the place to Ross McFarlane there, and he could lose about another one because Christian Rose in the CQR race up car goes by as well. So Carl Janssen up into third. He stays in third, sorry. Ross McFarlane up into fourth along with Christian Rose, who jumps up into fifth. And Daniel McCauley, after that lock up at the hairpin, down to 6th place.
Yeah, no, Docker nearly got on the, nearly benefited from that as well. He's right on the tally. It might be quite important for Evdoka to get this one done, because we don't quite know what the ultimate pace of McFarlane and Rose is, whether they are truly faster than McCauley. I expect these four, to be honest, to stay relatively close. You just see Dave Baker trying to get involved in this one. His times have been relatively matching these guys, as I'm just seeing Ben Gregory disconnected from the session. He, I think, is pretty much our first retiree. And also Stuart Atkinson as well. He's only just pulled into the pit. He's also disconnected. So with 2 retirees, I think Max Spooner is still going out there. But yeah, 2 of them have gone. It's very impressive though, out of a 50-car field.
Indeed it is. To only have that many cars not having issues during the race, as we come back across the front straight again. This race is getting run at a pretty good pace as we go for the first corner, making sure they don't hit that inside concrete wall, which is always so difficult to do. Shows why these drivers put in the hours in practice to make sure that they can nail that first corner without hitting that inside wall, because if you do, it could pretty much be a race ender, especially in a series like this. But I do believe we have fast repairs in this championship, so if a driver does come a cropper, then they are able to either limp back to the pits or tow back to the pits, and they're able to get a brand spanking new car. But they can only do that once. Once they've done that, if they wreck it again, they will be done for the day. So something for the drivers to bear in mind. Wish we had that in the 24 Hours of Le Mans race that me, Alex Simpson and Andrew Woodhouse did. Otherwise we'd have done a lot better than what we did, because at the end we were just cruising around, getting past left, right and centre down the Moorsand Straight. I think the only place where we were quick was going through the Porsche curves, because you didn't have to rely on the speed of the car there. So a little bit of a tale there of woe from our exploits in the 124 hours. It's that is coming up to 2 years ago now, so still going on about it, and still haven't lived it down now. So I wonder if we'll be getting back into that this season. Tell you what we are doing though is a 24-hour karting race at Milton Keynes, and quite a few of the drivers in this championship are doing it as well. I think Dave Baker's going to be there, and as Daniel McCauley goes wide, I think he's going to be there as well. He's about to get overtaken by Michael Evdoka going down the back straight.
Here comes Evdoka. Is he going to look to the inside? It's going to be very brave, because look at the concrete wall on the inside. Evdoka just about backs out of it in the end. But will he be able to get the move done? Still now, look at that. Dave Baker right in the mix with these drivers. And Evdoka hasn't got the move done yet. Going to have to try to get into the slipstream, but I don't think he's going to give himself a chance going into turn 1 unless he's super brave looking to the inside in turn 1. No, he's not quite there. These guys just losing touch a little bit with the drivers just ahead. Is that, where is that? Is that Buckmore that you're going to do that 24 hours?
Well, I think it's in Milton Keynes, I think. Don't know, that's what I think it's a Daytona one in Milton Keynes, not too sure. But
oh, yeah.
I remember going there for the British Grand Prix, so I do have experience of racing around there before, but that was back in 2016. I'll see how much of it is still in there when we get to the circuit. And I wonder how much time I'll have lost in potential weight gain, he says. Half an hour into this one of round 3 of the World GT Championship. We've got quite a lot of this race still to go. In fact, an hour and a half, in fact, which is the length of race that the endurance races used to be in this championship. We've added an extra half an hour on. This race is scheduled to finish around 10:30 here. And when we're done, we have got Ritmatech Sports Car Series action coming up later on in the evening too. So keep out an eye for that one. Not too sure if it's on the eSports Network or whether it's on Apex Racing TV itself. But if you're subscribed to both, you'll receive a notification for when we go live. And this is probably one of the best battles we've got on the circuit at the moment as we go on to the back straight again. This time Daniel McCauley isn't feeling the heat too much from the Ferrari behind, but nonetheless, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th all within a camera shot as we go into the right-hander, as the circuit starts to light up orange as the sun slowly starts to sink below the horizon.
Also got Josh Thompson, I think, looking to get some moves done. He's right on the tail of Ewan Kaiser. As I say that, he's just dropped off a little bit. I swear I saw him within a couple of tenths. But either way, he's going to be past Kaiser very soon because he's lapping about 1.5 seconds a lap faster. So, maths, he's half second behind. He should get past him on the next lap. So Josh Thompson trying to recover, because he's already up into 17th place, to be fair. He did drop down into 21st. How far is he off the lead? He's half a minute off the lead. Wow. Well, if you said to him half an hour into this race he'll be half a minute off the lead, he would be absolutely outraged and would not take that on any day of the week. And well, he's trying to recover, like I said, maybe a top 10, still possible. He's only 13 seconds off Chris Wood. But anything higher than that is going to be very difficult for the for the former runner-up in this series, as he gets closer and closer to the Team Mad driver. They're all locking up just a little bit ahead. This is turning into a bit of a duo battle because Chris Daines is only about 9/10 of a second up the road, as Thompson drags himself closer and closer. Of course, no chance into this one. Barely a braking zone. But we have seen a few moves into the next corner, where you take quite a wide turn in. That is half an opportunity, but Thompson, I think, will just line us up for Sunset Bend.
Oh dear me, running a bit wide down the exit was Josh Thompson. Now through into the Le Mans complex of corners. As you can see there, he's lost 16 places. Trying to get one of them back in. I think it shows the quality of this championship that Josh Thompson isn't just siving his way through the pack. He's got to approach each driver differently and try and get past. And as you can see, he's only been able to make it up to 16th place since he spun off a couple of laps ago. And he's going to have to try and work out to get past Jeroen Kaiser, who's showing him the inside line there, going through the final corner. The CQR Race Up car kindly obliges, takes the inside line. Is he going to be able to get by into turn 1 though? It's going to be Ferrari versus Ford. They were neck and neck over the line there. I think that was about a few hundredths of a second in it. And Jeroen Kaiser decides discretion is the better part of valour there. And Josh Thompson goes through into 16th place. Now only 15 places away from where he qualified now as his next site. His next car to get by is Chris Daines, who's had a good race so far, the Northern Lights Racing GT Omega car, up 9 places since the start, and he's in quite a comfortable position here. He's not quite close enough to Andy Shield, who's just up the road there, to get by him, but he has got a healthy advantage back to Josh Thompson for now. We'll see if the Ford GT can start to put in the laps as we go further up the field to look at this battle again, as battle is resumed between Daniel McCauley and Michael Evdoka here.
Evdoka just waiting for that mistake, isn't he? We've seen one mistake from Dan McCauley already today, but he's just not offering anything. The good news for Evdoka is he has got a lot of fuel now on board that car. He has been in the slipstream for this entire race so far. He may have even been lifting and coasting a little bit as well. He is going to be able to go potentially a couple of laps further than someone like Sinjay Setsas or Jake Blackwell, for example, two drivers who haven't got any slipstream so far. Although Blackwell might be getting a slipstream quite soon because he's only 0.6 of a second ahead of Carl Janssen. Janssen plugging away at that gap, being about quarter of a second a lap faster, and he's eventually got it down now to about 0.6 of a second. But we've seen so far today, overtaking so difficult. So I think it's going to take quite an effort to get past the CQR driver.
One car that you did see there was John Roberts. He was heading into the pit lane and he was getting laps as well. So problem there for John Roberts in the Porsche. Not too sure what's happened to the boosted with Savage Gaming car, but yeah, he was getting lapped there and he's coming to the pit lane as well. So not the best start to the evening for him as we quickly approach 3/4 of an hour here at Sebring International Raceway. Close battle here between Richard Warmingham and Dion Phillips. This is over 12th and 13th. Phillips in the iRacing car runs a little bit wide on the exits, and this could present an opportunity to the XVR green Porsche driven by Warmingham. See if he can get the move done into the hairpin here. Car 714 looking for the inside, but the Ferrari is late on the brakes. Has that little extra bit of top end speed as well, which may have come in handy there. But for now, it's Warmingham trailing Phillips as they go on their way towards the second half of the lap.
Oh, Evdoka's got past Macaulay. He's 0.2 of a second ahead of him now. So just as we pull away, he executes that overtake. So up into 6th place is Michael Evdoka, up 5 places from his starting place of 11th. And it was an ambitious move, but a safe one, I think, in the end. Got stopped on the brakes very nicely. And the Pitstop Motorsport driver who won the Daytona 24 Hours the other week in 5th split GTE for Pitstop Motorsport. Well, he's up into 6th place now in this race. And yeah, just looking back at the move, yeah, wasn't necessarily the easiest one. Could have made a slight mistake, and credit to Dan Macaulay there, once again offering plenty of room and realising that he needs to pick his battles well.
Back on board now as he comes out of the final corner, and yeah, Docker up into 6th place, 5 positions gained. And next up for him is Christian Rose, but Christian Rose is 1.6 seconds away, so you'd have to think it might take some time for him to get there. Meanwhile, the battle for 2nd place is there's a car off there. It's not the leader, that's for sure. It's I think it might be one of the XCR cars. I think it might be Steve LaValle, actually, not too sure. But yeah, there was a car off the circuit. Might have been Steve LaValle, actually. Yeah, I think it was. Here's a replay. We might see what happened. He was battling away with a Ferrari. And we could be about to see what happened. Going into turn 2. And this is going... Oh, he's going to go at the inside, is he? Oh, dear. Not too sure what happened there. Don't know whether that might have been a bit of, you know, the old netcode, but... Either way, Steve LaValle having a bit of strife there as there goes through Jake Blackwell and Sindre and Carl Janssen in 3rd.
Yeah, the car didn't seem to stop, did it? It had a small tap maybe, but also seemingly just maybe the brakes not quite working as expected. There's so little run-off area, to be fair, at that part of the circuit. It's very difficult to stop the car in that situation. A couple of other retirees, by the way. Spooner has now retired. Rayfield and Clark as well. Luke Clark, well, he had a grid penalty, didn't he? So that was why he started so far down. As well, all of a sudden the headlights, I think, just popped on. From me at least. That was quite sudden, unless that was just my screen being a little bit weird. But either way, it's night basically now. It feels like night. We're about... well, what time is it now in Sim? It is 7:54. I can't remember what I said earlier on. Was it 7:59 I said earlier on?
Oh, not too
I think
sure.
it was.
Yeah.
I think it was 7:59 for the sunset. So literally 5 minutes away from sunset, pretty much now.
Indeed, it is. Yeah, I think the lighting around the circuit is all just illuminated as well. So that will probably start to take over on the front straight. So we look at this battle for 2nd between Jake Blackwell and Carl Janssen. Just going out through the hairpin there was Sindre Setsas. He's got a 5.4 second advantage. He hasn't been lapping too much quicker than Jake Blackwell and Carl Janssen, but as Sam mentioned earlier, he still seems to be churning out the lap times. He was 0.3 of a second quicker than them on the previous tour. and that gap shows no signs of getting closed down at this rate. Sindre Setsas doing a pretty good job so far, as he's currently doing in the championship as well, as we go through towards Tower Bend again. Have you ever done races much in these 2-hour endurance race lengths at all, Sam?
Not really, no, to be honest. Yeah, I've never raced in this series, so there's pretty much no other series that I've really ever done these events like. So maybe we did the sim races for Asia, a couple of rounds for that. I actually had a round where at Sebring, which was probably the worst race of my life, where I spun, I think, 3 times in the Ferrari GTE, actually. So that was not a pleasant race, but I don't mind this circuit apart from that. And of course, these 2-hour race lengths, it does work well. Of course, on Apex Racing TV, we'll be hosting a 1.5-hour race at Bathurst, where we've got an accelerated time of day. Should be really good fun. I think that'll be Adam and someone else taking you through that one. So it should be great fun, that. And well, we've still got a few Porsche spots available, about 5 Porsche spots available. Unfortunately, GTE has completely been filled out, so if you do want to sign up for that, it's a good preparation for the 12 hours in a couple of weeks. Do go onto our Facebook page and yeah, fill out the forms. It'll be in the pinned post. Still Blackhall holding on against Janssen. It just seems as though to get that gap. Oh, sorry, Macaulay and Baker are very close. Baker's just got past Macaulay. The driver, he was in 3rd position about 20 minutes ago. He's far from that now. He's down into 8th.
Don't know whether it could be potentially a tyre wear thing or not, but yeah, Daniel Macaulay dropping down to 8th place now. There was a time that he was trying to hold on to 4th place. Now that's changed. CQR Sim Sports car down to 8th. The next car in 9th is Chris Wood. He's 4.9 seconds away. Got a few cars coming into the pits now as we approach the 3/4 of an hour mark. Chaz Draycott and somebody else coming down the pit lane. I think that might be Rob Graham, was it? No, it's Mike Gray, actually. And they all come into the pits now. Get the necessary fuel and potentially tyres and get back on their way again. Rule in these cars, I believe, in the GT3 specs is that it's fuel first, followed then by tyres. So if you want to change the tyres, you really must want to change them, because you'll just be adding time onto your pit stop. And this will give us an opportunity. I think the tyres are getting changed on Chaz Drake here, Sam. Not too sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure myself. The other car went quite fast, so the tyres take about 27 seconds. I don't think these drivers will take tyres for the entire race, as Sindre Setsas comes in. And, well, I don't want to say I was right, but I did say 3/4 of an hour, didn't I? So I was about right, which is rare for us on Apex Racing TV. We are notorious for not knowing what we're talking about with strategy, but I feel like we got some kind of clue today. And, well, Sindre Setsas into the pits. Carl Janssen also into the pits. And Dan Macaulay. I'm surprised Macaulay had to pit, because he did get a bit of a slipstream. Expect the likes of particularly Evdoka and McFarlane to be able to go a couple more laps, because they were, well, stuck behind other drivers for pretty much the entire stint.
Looking here from the pit lane camera, and away goes one of the Fords. That was Carl Janssen. He's beaten him out. That is a very interesting development. Carl Janssen ahead of Sindre Setsas on the road. Setsas had a 5-second advantage before these pit stops began, and now Carl Janssen leaves the pit lane ahead of Sindre Setsas with a gap of around 7 seconds or so. So a roll of the dice in strategy. Maybe some tyres have been changed. Whatever. It does mean now that the core sim racing car is effectively the new race leader, with Setsas' teammate, when this all cycles through, back into 2nd, or potentially even worse, it could be 3rd place when we see what happens with the likes of Jake Blackhall, who is currently circulating on the circuit now.
Yeah, 13 seconds shorter, so it wouldn't have been a difference in tyres. I assume it was just taking a lot less fuel. So, of course, these drivers can take 1 half an hour stint and 1 45-minute stint from this part. I assume Janssen has taken approximately half an hour of fuel compared to Sets has 45 minutes of fuel, so that should even out at the end of the race. But he's going to be very quick over the next kind of half an hour or so, Will Janssen. So, well, yeah, watch out for him as we see a very late move into the pits for one of the drivers. I think that may have been McFarlane. I'm not quite sure. Maybe Evdoka. I don't think it was Evdoka. I think it was a Porsche coming in, but not quite sure. We'll wait to see if someone gets a penalty as Jake Blackhall trundles down the pit lane. He could be in the lead here. It will be fascinating to see how much fuel he takes in comparison to Janssen, because, well, both of them want to check position over the other.
This is going to be very interesting. Christian Rose and Dave Baker stay out. The two CQR race up cars deciding to go long in terms of running the fuel down. We'll wait and see whether Sindre Setsas and Carl Janssen will emerge. They haven't crossed the line yet. A few other cars getting away. Fantastic stop by Ross McFarlane. He might leapfrog Jake Blackhall out of the pits here. No, he doesn't. But I think that's Carl Janssen coming across the line now and into the lead, into the first corner. It is. But look how close it is now, because Janssen is in first. Blackhall is in second. Third is going to be Ross McFarlane once this all cycles through. Then it's Michael Evdoka. Sindre Setsas down in 7th place. The Norwegian. 5 positions lower than where he started, and he's all sorts of crossed up going through this through turn 2 and turn 3, the short S's section here. So it's all turned on its head, Sam. We've got Janssen first when this all cycles through, Blackhall, McFarlane, Evdoka and Setsas as the two CQR race hubs forge their own trend at the front here with 5 seconds between them. I wonder if this will have to be the opportunity where they come into the pits for their first round of stops.
Yeah, you'd think so. No one has done what Setsas has done. 1 minute 10 down the pits. Everyone else was below a minute, so maybe he picked up a speeding penalty, perhaps. I'm not quite sure. I don't know if we could maybe go back. I'm not sure if we've got that footage available to view. Just see if he maybe overdid it on pit entry, because, yeah, like I said, no one has gone over 1 minute, and he's down in 7th place. So even if he, you know, it did take a lot of fuel, he's got quite a lot of traffic now, and it's given the opportunity to his teammate Carl Janssen to perhaps win this one. And there was me earlier on saying, writing this race off, thinking, oh, it's all over, it's just going to dominate the race. Well, it's anything but now. As Rose and Baker do come in, they should, depending on how much fuel they feel like taking, come out around McFarlane and Evdoka.
Yeah, we'll wait and see with this one. Trying to find a good camera angle of them. There they are. Just scrolling back through, spooling through the tapes just to see when our race leader Sindre Setsas came into the pits, so we could see whether he maybe did speed on entry into the pits. If not, then once the race is over, we might be able to speak to him and find out what happened. Christian Rose emerges from his stop in 5th position, just behind Michael Evdoka. So the race leader is now indeed Carl Janssen. Quite closed up as well, because obviously Jake Blackhall was trying to chase down Sindre Setsas. It is now the car that was behind him before the first rounds of pit stops in Carl Janssen. So it's going to be fantastic to see now what the pace is going to be like between these two, because obviously Jake Blackhall was ahead of Janssen earlier in the race.
Yeah, exactly. I think Janssen probably, you'd expect, has the advantage, because he did manage to close down about a 3-second gap to Blackhall in the opening stint. But McFarlane, how quick is he? Because he's pretty much been stuck behind drivers for this entire race. He was stuck behind. Oh dear, who was it? I'm not. Oh, it's Macaulay. Sorry, he was stuck behind Macaulay earlier on. Macaulay had an awful pit stop. 1 minute 25 according to my system. He's dropped way down the order, I think. So yeah, that's not good for Daniel Macaulay whatsoever. The driver earlier on, he was running in the podium places.
No, it isn't, and I'm sure they'll be hoping for better earlier on. Daniel Macaulay, yeah, you're right, currently shown in down in 20th place after those first round of pit stops. So not what they at all would have wanted. And just after 3/4 of an hour. So 50 minutes gone then in this race, as it starts to get ever more darker going into the final corner. Soon I'm sure the position and the car numbers will start to illuminate. Josh Thompson, he's continuing his surge back through the field after his spin down at Sunset Bend, which is the corner that he's on his way to. Next up on his list is Jerome Kaiser. He's already had to pass him once in this race. He's going to try and pass him for the second time here to get into 12th. Both these drivers have gained quite a few positions since the pit stops took place. Looking to the inside, going through the final corner. Can the Manxman get the position down the front straight here? He's in the wheel tracks of the Ferrari in front. Is the Ford going to look to the inside into the first corner? Thinks about it and goes for it. Up the inside he goes and runs a bit deep. In fact, that's going to allow Richard Warmingham up the inside of at least one of them. Indeed it does, and he's got past Kaiser as well. So both Thompson and Kaiser, I think it was a combination. So Kaiser getting out of the way to let Thompson through. Thompson then going a bit deep into the corner and then allowing Richard Warmingham to take advantage of Kaiser and getting past him.
Yeah, I don't know if Warmingham gave Thompson a £5 note or something before the race started, but that was very generous there from Josh Thompson. Something that teammates would struggle to pull off, but there you go, it's Warmingham who benefits from it, and because what we've seen so far with overtaking, that's quite important, and really close between those two for much of the race. So Thompson is now only 2.5 seconds off 10th. Jimmy Rushworth had a little bit of a slow pit stop actually, or did he? Or has he just dropped back? I'm not quite sure. He seems quite far off the top 8 or so. So, by the way, top 8 are separated by about 11 seconds, which is ever so close. And Ben Palmer as well, very much under the radar in 9th place currently for CQR. Really haven't talked about him at all, but he's 10 seconds off the top 8 currently. And, well, that would be a very good result if you could hang on to that.
Good battle here between Sindre Setsas and Christian Rose. I think this is just the end of the battle because Setsas, who is a man on the mission after what could potentially have been a speeding into the pit lane, is now up into 5th position again. So he'll be trying to get back up to the leaders. Jake Blackall hasn't made too much of an impression so far on Carl Janssen. Gap between them is just over a second. But Blackall has got Ross McFarlane coming now. McFarlane is just half a second behind. And this could really start getting interesting if the Ferrari in 3rd starts to apply the pressure to the Aussie behind. It's going to be very tough for Blackall to race with him if it starts getting wheel to wheel, of course, because Blackall racing on the other side of the world, there's going to be about half a second or so potentially difference between where the two of them are on the circuit. And I'm sure Blackall has taken that into account and will make sure that if things start to get a little bit risky between the two, he'll have to think ahead into what could potentially happen and think for the rest of the race, because still looking at the clock, we've got 1 hour and 8 minutes still to go here to see the outcome of this race. If somebody goes off in front of us, that is a car getting lapped, and that was, I think, Rusty Laidler in the CQR Tarkov car. Indeed it was. He's down in 40th place. Rusty not having the best of runs here tonight. He's lost 4 places, and that little run off there at the exit of Tower is only going to exasperate things for him a little bit now as Blackall and McFarlane go onto the back straight again.
Yeah, and these guys just, well, in fact, actually on that last lap, dropped about 0.2 of a second to Docker. He's been closed in by Setsas, and Rose as well. So Setsas is, well, on that last lap was about half a second faster than these drivers in 2nd and 3rd place. So he's certainly not over his Setsas, and if it was just a case of him taking a load of fuel, then he's probably still the favourite for this one. It's just really difficult to tell if that was the case, as we tried to get the footage of him coming into the pits, and should give us a decent idea of well, whether he picks up a speeding penalty or not.
No, it looks like I think he entered it at,
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Well then, so it could be a roll of the dice and strategy, maybe a bit more fuel put into the car so that when the cars in front of him come in for their stops later on in this race, he could then put the hammer down and then try and get back into the lead again, or wait and see. It's something that Michael Schumacher used to do loads back in the day, of being behind a car. They'd come into the pits and then he'd put in a series of qualifying laps and end up coming out on top, as you can see the headlights starting to have more of a presence here around Sebring as Sindre Setsas closes in on, oh, and you can see in the foreground that was Jake Blackall very nearly getting by Ross McFarlane. Here is another Ferrari versus Ford, Ferrari versus Ferrari battle here. It's Michael Evdoka versus Sindre Setsas going into Tower Bend. Can Setsas get the move done here? No, he doesn't, but Evdoka has to go defensive. And surely the core sim racing car will get the run. Evdoka tries everything, but I think he might have to yield here going through the Le Mans complex side by side here. Don't want to have an accident here. One of the quickest parts of the circuit. Up the inside goes Setsas, and he goes up into 4th place. Good move.
Yeah, Docker didn't want to give that one up, but in the end it was inevitable which way that was going. And it seems as though Setsas then did just take some more fuel, and in that case, that is not Evdoka's battle whatsoever, as we just see a Ford going very slowly on the inside. I believe that might be Jamie Ayres. I'm not quite sure at all. That's a good call, isn't it? I never get them right, but I will take that whilst I can. And, well, he's now a lap down, only the top 25 drivers, I'm showing at least, on the lead lap still. Really does show the pace of these front runners, and of course the drivers in the second half of the pack are very competitive as well. You know, all kinds of drivers who have fought for fought for titles in other leagues, but well, today Carl Janssen and Jake Blackhall and Ross McFarlane in particular absolutely flying out there. Sindre Setsas is now 6 seconds off the lead. So he's managed to maintain that gap to Carl Janssen, and kind of even lap times. They're in the late 56s currently, with Blackhall and McFarlane in the mid 57s. So it's only a matter of time, I think, until Setsas catches up to 2nd and 3rd.
Looking at 2nd and 3rd here. We're riding on board with 2nd, looking back at 3rd from Jake Blackhall. You're right about the gap. If you saw on the back straight earlier, we had all 5 of them, all on the back straight going into Sunset Bend. So that is how close things are here. And speaking of earlier, looking at which cars are who, there is a spotter's guide for the World GT Championship. I believe you can get it on their website, which is wgtc.uk, and you'll be able to get a spotter's guide there and see who is driving in which car. Very similar to the spotters guides that you can get for the likes of the Daytona 24 Hours and the Le Mans 24 Hours, which definitely helped me when I was watching the action this weekend.
I think Thompson's just got past Phillips. That's CQR versus Excite Racing. And yep, Thompson up into 11th now. Still down 10 positions from where he started, but up 10 positions from the lowest he's fallen. To be fair to Josh, he seems to have really kept his head down. He's still only 28 seconds off the lead. Remember, when he dropped down to 21st, he was half a minute behind. So he's actually closed the lead to the leader, and yet has overtaken some 10 cars. And I think he's had to overtake a couple of them twice as well. So incredible pace from Josh, and you just wonder where he could have been. It would have been some lead battle. Could have well be fighting for the win currently, but instead he's fighting for a top 10 finish. He'll have 12 seconds to catch up to Chris Wood, so top 9 is looking almost certain for him. 8 or higher is going to be very difficult, because we are approaching the midway stages. Chris Wood, oh dear, sorry. Yeah. Marco had a horrendous one yesterday. Absolutely. Well, Scott Newton, and now, well, Chris has another bit of an incident. I don't think he's got too much damage on that car, but he's almost trying to. Oh, wait, no, he does.
Here we go. Oh, it gets a bit wide, and the car snaps into the tyre barrier. It doesn't take up too much damage, but looks like the tyres are cooked after that. And then when he tries to put the power down slightly later on, he ends up very nearly going into the Armco barrier on the inside. So poor Chris Wood is now down to 15th place, and that is another spot for Josh Thompson. He's up into 9th now, and trying to get past Ben Palmer, who is 9/10 of a second up the road in the Porsche, which is there, the CQR GT car. And you are right about Josh Thompson. Just looking at the times that are getting done, most of the cars in this field are lapping in the either 57s or 58s. Only a select few are lapping in the 56s. Looking in particular at Blackhall, McFarlane, and Setsas and Evdoka. Josh Thompson's one of them as well, doing 56.8s, and that is pretty much very similar to what Blackhall and McFarlane are doing at the very front. So you are right, Josh Thompson potentially could have been right up there for the win if it wasn't for that spin down at Sunset Bend. Apologies for the rhyming there, going onto the onto the back straight.
If only I was that lyrical. Only in my dreams. as I tried to say something that rhymes, but you know, I can't think of anything. Anyway, Ben Palmer under big pressure from Thompson. Well, this is just a matter of time, I think, until this one happens. They are teammates, actually. In fact, it's a CQR 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. They'd rather it be first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, but it's still pretty impressive. As well, they can see the teammates there sorting themselves out. Thompson up into 8th place. That could be as far as he gets because he's got 16 seconds to catch up to Dave Baker. But now to the end of this race, he is just going to be pushing like mad. We know how quick he can be in qualifying and expects for 59 minutes and 50 seconds of qualifying laps.
Thompson up into 8th place then, flashing the lights. Maybe even already starting to get into the head of Dave Baker just in front of him. Josh Thompson has kept his powder dry since that spin down at the Sunset Bend earlier on in the race, but which has probably been the main talking point, along with Sindre Setsas losing the lead after the first round of pit stops. But now the Ford GT is on a resurgent charge, and now we're gone, and we'll run you through the top 10 here at Sebring. First it's Carl Janssen, second Jake Blackhall, third is Ross McFarlane, then Sindre Setsas, Michael Evdoka, then Christian Rose, Dave Baker, Josh Thompson, who we're looking at here closing in on, sorry, looking at Ben Palmer here in 9th, and then Jamie Rushworth rounding up the top 10. The top 10's made up of, as there's a car off, is that a laps car? It might be, not too sure.
I think it is.
Yeah, it's Rusty Laidler, I think, and he's towed back to the pits as well, so problem for Laidler there. But yeah, the top 10 made of 2 Fords, 3 Ferraris, and 5 Porsches.
Yeah, decent spread, isn't it? I'm playing, well, I say CQR very much dominating the bottom half of the top 10 with Jake Blackhall representing them very well in second. The top 2 getting a little bit closer. Janssen was really looking strong at the start of this stint. It looks as though he was going to be able to build a really nice gap going into the second pit stop. It's kind of going down now. On that last lap, he was almost 2 tenths slower than Jake Blackhall. He's kind of just dropped into the 57s. I seriously doubt that's any fuel saving or anything. This is absolutely as much as he's got. Oh, and we nearly see McFarlane take out Jake Blackhall. Well, if there wasn't contact there, then that is a miracle. McFarlane will undoubtedly be able to get right back to the rear of the driver in second place. Well, that was a little bit of a loss of concentration there.
Very close there. We were looking for the blimp, and you could just see him closing, and I thought he was going to smash into the back of him, but doesn't. And yeah, you could see from that blimp as well that the front 4 are all very close indeed. Last time around, Sindre Setsas did a 56.2. Quickest driver of anybody on that last lap. If you compare that to Blackhall, he did a 56.8, 6 tenths slower. Ross McFarlane, 56.7. 56.8 was done by Josh Thompson. So Sindre Setsas is a-coming. It's just about whether he's going to get there before we get to the next round of pit stops or not. But you can just see the Ferrari of Setsas there in the back of this shot from the rear of Jake Blackhall's car. And he's definitely got Ross McFarlane to deal with as we come over the line. Carl Janssen has a 1.6 second advantage, so we haven't really spoken much about him. There he is going into the first corner. He has got things relatively under control here at the moment as we start to head towards nighttime conditions here. Probably will be just about dark, total darkness by the end of the race, and I wonder if the nighttime will be the right time for Sindre Setsas to spring a late race charge to get back to the lead that he was in before the pit stops began.
Yeah, we still don't quite know what was going on with that strategy because, like I said earlier on, there's no one else who has done kind of more than 1 minute pit stops, deliberately at least. So has Setsas got this one basically in the bag? Because if he does have a 10-second short pit stop, he's going to be miles out in the lead with a stint to go. Oh, or is he in trouble? Almost in trouble. There was Jamie Rushworth, and he's maybe going to lose a position to his own teammate Ben Palmer's Dion Phillips as well. Is closing in on these guys as Palmer almost going a little bit, almost looking to the inside, but Rushworth was covering the middle of the circuit and could take a normal racing line in the end. still in 9th and 10th, these two drivers.
To Sequoia GT teammates, of course, Jamie Rushworth, car number 3, Ben Palmer is number 1, and then behind we've got Dion Phillips in the Excite Racing car, just in 11th place. All these drivers doing pretty well in terms of the championship standings going into this one. Of course, after just 2 race meetings, it is still pretty tight at the top, even though it's been six races with 20-minute sprint races and a whole load of frills and spills in between, like at the Glen, like at Road America as well last week. We didn't see too many huge incidents at Road America compared to what we saw at the Glen. Ben Hackerson, I think, still coming down to land, I think, after,
Ben Gregory.
Ben Gregory.
Sorry. Yes. He said that he always wanted to be in a deja vu meme. Well, I've kind of done that and some more as well, so sorry to Ben. But I'm sure I think he'll appreciate it in years to come.
I don't know whether we've done any Bandersnatch memes yet. Oh, as Palmer now very nearly goes on the exit. He had a choice there of either spinning off or carrying on there. I don't think that's really meme-worthy as Dion Phillips goes up the inside, up into 10th place. Up the inside he goes, and the Excite Racing car goes past the CQR GT and cracks the top 10 as he goes into the S's here. Meanwhile, battle for second place is resumed here. Not too much has changed since we last checked in on these guys as we go through into Tower Bend. But you can see Michael Evdoka as well. Is that the Pitstop Motorsports car that we can just see? No, there's a Ferrari in between them, I should point out. That is Jason Rowe in the Team Mad car that you can just see entering the shot there. So he's not Michael Evdoka, not having to trouble the top 4 just yet. But Ross McFarlane definitely is. Last time around he did a 56.1. I don't think we've seen a single car get into the 55s yet. Just looking at the times. In fact, that wasn't his lap time. That was his best time. He did a 57.0 last time around, and the tyres potentially starting to go off a little bit now, Sam, because even the quick drivers at the front, the likes of Blackall and McFarlane, are now starting to go into the 57s compared to when they were lapping in the 56s at the in the earlier laps during this race.
Yeah, and remember these tyres are 1 hour and 5 minutes or 1 hour 7 minutes old, so they probably won't change tyres for the entire race unless they pit very early for their second pit stop. But you think it's 27 seconds to change tyres. That's so much time to make up. You think that's what Josh Thompson lost earlier on with his spin and his slowdown as well, and getting caught up in traffic. Throwing away that amount of time and track position as well is really a waste. And I remember at Daytona, certainly for me at least, we were able to do 4 hours, I think. I think Michael Evdoka managed to do 4 hours on a one set of tyres, which is pretty insane. And so these tyres shouldn't degrade too much, but it certainly is going to go off as the race goes on. And maybe just that stability as well, not quite having the confidence that the drivers had previously. But Sindre Setsas, well, he's not down on confidence at the moment because he has been rapidly closing in on these drivers, 0.7 of a second faster on the last lap than the top 3. But you know that Ross McFarlane, if he wants to win this race, he's got to keep Setsas behind him. So it's not going to be easy for Sindre to get the move done.
Just seeing if I can get the gap for you between how the gap has evolved between McFarlane in 3rd and Setsas in 4th. He says. There you go. You can see there it was 2.5 seconds at one point, now down to about half a second, and McFarlane is definitely within reach of striking Jake Blackall here as we go to the battle in front. Let's see how the gap has evolved between these two. You'll probably find that it hasn't changed too much actually as we get it up. Just a few tenths of a second between them as we come across the line now to complete another lap. You can hear the different engine tones as well. Into the first corner we go. There goes Janssen. There goes Blackall. Then McFarlane, and then Setsas bringing up the rear. This accordion is getting ever more tightly bunched and I wonder if we could have all four cars nose to tail in a few laps or so, because looking at the lap times, Blackhall was a tenth of a second quicker than Janssen on the previous tour of the circuit, and that gap starting to ever so slowly come down a little bit. It's 1.6 seconds. There you go, you can count it. And then we've got this trio all fighting over the second place spot, and Sindre Setsas is going to start trying to work out where the best place on the circuit's going to be to try and get past Ross McFarlane, who in turn is thinking exactly the same over trying to get past car 97 Jake Blackhall in the CQR Tarkov car.
Yeah, and it's getting quite dark as well. Really dark now. And this circuit, other drivers find it really easy. I don't know how they can find it so easy. I really struggle. I struggle in the day, to be honest, around here. But in the night, whilst you got those lights on the side of the circuit, it's still not the easiest thing. As Setsas looks to the inside. This is an important move. He's on the inside of his rival, and he might just be up a position. They're still going side by side. And Setsas is going to have the ideal line. They make contact there. And, well, it's McFarlane who loses out in the end. He tried to take the, well, not the racing line, but tried to take the corner, but Setsas was on the inside and up into the top three, and that could be a crucial turning point in this event.
Yeah, we'll see how it looks from the helicopter here. This is the battle for third position. Ferrari goes up the inside, through they go, and oh, there's the contact there, and it forces McFarlane wide. It shouldn't have done too much damage. I don't think it would have knocked the steering out of kilter or anything, but if anything, has come off the worse for wear. And now there is Sindre Setsas. He is now 0.8 of a second away from second place man Jake Blackhall. Yeah, we do have the cat's eyes at the side of the circuit. I don't know whether they've got a different term in America, but yeah, that does provide a way around the circuit. If you want to find a circuit that's pretty dark when you get racing there, it's definitely Spa-Francorchamps.
Yes.
We have got 3 20-minute races there. We aren't doing an enduro race there, but I'm sure the organisers, with it being the final race meeting of the season, will probably throw a spanner into the works and do race 3 under the cloak of darkness, which will make the run-up to Les Combes definitely interesting. Definitely the run-up through Eau Rouge, that's Radion actually, corner.
Oh,
interesting. If there was a meme that had become stale, I think, Sam, I think that might just be it. Every time I see a picture of Eau Rouge or whatever on Instagram, literally the first comment is, as you can expect, that's Radion actually. Followed by, yeah, so we'll be going to that one later on.
Oh, we won't fall to that level, I'm sure, on our Facebook page. Even when Will Buxton said it, of course, a fantastic F1 pundit, still a bit cringy. So yeah, not good whatsoever. So I try not to quote it at all. Anyway,
yeah,
sorry.
If you are watching XMattyG, up your meme game for next season. We'll see. A minute and 12 into this race then, and Sindre Setsas is definitely not worrying about Eau Rouge or Radion just yet. He's worrying about second place, and he's worrying about one of the cars in front. That is that Chaz Draco? I think it is, in the Beast Racing Porsche, or it could be Lars Van Ryn. I think it actually is Lars Van Ryn. Actually, car 991 and the boosted with Savage Gaming. The pink highlights on that Porsche giving it away. He's just been lapped. Ben Palmer and Chaz Draco have all been lapped as well. Actually, Palmer down to 26th places. He'd been in some sort of issue, Sam, actually, because him and Jamie Rushworth were on the circuit together, and now Palmer just dropping down the order a little bit, so not too sure if something may have happened to Palmer at all, but scroll back and see if anything did. But yeah, he's now in a bit of strife. Let's see if we can find him on the circuit, actually. No, he's still in 12th. There you go. Timing screen playing havoc. You'd think he's having a bit of problems, but no, he isn't. He's just carrying on fine. Rumours of his demise were greatly exaggerated there.
Yes, I actually saw the same thing, so it was not just for ye. As Blackhall comes under massive pressure from Setsas, and you could argue this is for the lead, because if Setsas comes up to Janssen in the lead, as they are teammates, you'd surely think Janssen wouldn't put up too much of a fight. Blackhall might be Setsas's biggest challenge from now to the finish. The driver who dropped down to 7th position after his pit stop earlier on. That feels like a long time ago, even though it was only about half an hour ago. And yeah, so Blackpool, well, how hard can he defend? He wants to stay in touch with Janssen. And of course, if Setsas doesn't have to take too much fuel at his final pit stop, then well, he could have an advantage anyway. Pit stop window is about to open, and maybe the door is going to be open for Sinjay Setsas, who's down the inside at Sunset Bend, and he is going to be into second position. Setsas has almost completed his recovery, and well, in the end, Blackhall made it quite simple for himself. Kinda, I don't, mean this rudely or whatever, but kind of getting a bit scared off the racing line in the end. Probably wise, because Setsas could have well initiated some contact there.
Carl Janssen fighting his way through traffic. He's just lapped Steve Burke and I think Lee Deemer as well in the 23 car. So away goes Carl Janssen. Car off in the background. Which car was it? That is Lee Deemer that's just been lapped. I was worried then for a second it was either going to be Setsas or Blackhall, but the Welshman Lee Deemer and the Samortor with Dragon Internet sat there in 25th place. He's had a good race actually, he's gained 14 places, but just hasn't been able to live with the pace that is currently being set at the front, and he now finds himself a lap down on the front three as he follows in their wheel tracks and in their headlights tracks going through Fangio and into the complex here towards Tower Bend again. But Carl Janssen, gap is 1.9 seconds between him and his teammate Sinjay Setsas, and I wonder if it's going to start coming down a little bit now. He's got a few cars in between them, but we will now start to have to look at the pit stops because they are underway. Here comes Paul Smith, who was one of the first cars in earlier. Him and Michael Hall have both come in, and Paul Smith, the Yorkshireman, who's probably got a stream going as well somewhere, is now into the pits, and also it's off this channel, the iRacing Esports Network as well, with his commitments with Racebot TV too. So he's going to get the car filled up with fuel, and car 33 is going to get on his way again. There's a WRC driver, Elfyn Evans, who runs with number 33, basically because it's his initials backwards, something I learned from the Monte Carlo rally earlier. And Paul Smith is on his way again in, might just stay inside the top 30 as Lane O'Connor goes by.
33 actually used to be my karting number. It was, if you assign every letter in the alphabet a number, so A1, B2, C3, and you have Sam, S-A-M, it equals 33. Samuel equals 71, but someone else had that number already, so I had to choose 33 instead. So I do have some, I do like that number quite a bit. Unfortunately, well, actually any Dutch fans listening to this may not like what I'm about to say, but of course Max Verstappen has the number 33 as well, which does slightly dent the reputation that I originally gave it. But there you go. Carl Janssen, yes, getting through the traffic pretty well. Well, Setsas got through the traffic well, to be honest. Did lose about half a second due to it, though. Now 1.8 seconds between the top two. And, of course, like I said earlier on, the pit stop window, as we've seen from Paul Smith, for example, very much open, because these drivers can go approximately 45 minutes on fuel, and we've only got 42 minutes to go, as I'm sure you can see in the top left of your screen. And so yeah, very much open. Expect Setsas then to go the furthest of anyone, and well, the likes of Janssen and basically everyone else to pit a little bit earlier.
Just working out what number I would have been. It would have been 19, I think. Obviously, A is number 1, so that's relatively easy. So 19, driven by Felipe Massa in the latter years of his F1 career, between when we started the numbers. The career numbers, which I think was 2013?
14, I think.
2014, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because 2013 Lewis Hamilton was number 7, driving for Mercedes. That's how I can remember that. But yeah, since 2014, don't think anyone's picked up that number since. But yeah, if you can work out what your number is, feel free to put it in the YouTube chat. I'm sure both you and Max Verstappen probably have similar levels of karting experience, so I'm assuming. Well, there's no way of proving anyway. Max Verstappen, if you are watching or listening, probably not, but yeah, do get in touch. Carl Janssen leads with 40 minutes to go. Sindre Setsas hasn't really made too many inroads into the gap. It's 2 seconds, but you can see the traffic game is strong here. And Setsas just getting past Steve Burke there in the Beast Racing car. This is something they're now going to have to factor into the closing stages of the race. The nighttime conditions, the lapped traffic that they've got to get through. We've lapped up to 26th place now. And also the second round of stops too. So if anything, since the start of the race, it's just going to start piling more and more stress on these drivers. Many of these haven't really done a continued period in the car for 2 hours, so fatigue's going to be starting to creep in as well, as it's now 10 o'clock at night here in the UK. Any of the drivers racing on mainland Europe, it's now 11 o'clock, so all these factors starting to pile up as we enter the final 40 minutes.
Yeah, for some sort of reason the air temperature not changing. 24 degrees still. Staying, yeah,
a hot and sticky night, yeah.
Yes, I would not like that whatsoever. I'm quite happy with the -3 that we're currently getting in Norfolk. But yeah, it's still 25 degrees track temperature then, so it's only gone down by a couple of degrees, so that's not going to be too much of a factor, of course, as the cooler it gets. Everyone who has played iRacing, of course, knows that the track gains grip and will be a little bit kinder as well to the tyres. But like I said earlier on, these guys can do nearly 4 hours on a set of tyres, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue for them. So that's just, well, no, it's still about 1.8 seconds, isn't it? He wants to catch up to Carl Janssen, but there's just a few too many cars in the way. You can see there, getting past the traffic very handily though. Also just looking at the off-track so far. Unfortunately, we don't have the official statistics, but I can see that according to our system, which as far as I'm aware, it kind of like defines the track limits very much at the white lines rather than taking advantage as such. Setsas has got 5, and Blackhawk's got 23, and Janssen's got 20. So it kind of shows how Setsas has been very good at keeping it within the lines and very well regulated with his driving.
Yeah, I probably trust your off-track count probably more than mine, I think. Only 42 laps into this, but I believe that even though it is an incident-free session here on iRacing, that I believe there are point prizes for getting for doing clean races. And I think there may even be a cleanest driver championship as well. Chris Daines is into the pits. He was running inside the top 15, and the Northern Lights Racing GT Omega car now stops for the second time in this race. We'll kind of see what kind of stop he's done. I think Andy Shiel has just re-emerged. He did a 16.6 second stop. You can hear Chris Daines revving away, which implies that he's set to go. There goes another Ford down the pit lane. That's Ben Hackerson. Away goes Chris Daines. Just about avoids that inside wall. We saw him nearly hitting the wall earlier. Daines doing a 20.4 second stop, which is slightly quicker than what the likes of Janssen and Setsas did and Blackwall earlier. But of course, there's only 38 minutes to go, so he only has to fill up the car to cover that necessary distance to get back to the end of the race, as Carl Janssen comes across the line now to start lap 43. And into the pits come Ross McFarlane and Michael Evdoka, two cars that were fighting near the front, and they are both driving Ferraris, I believe, and they are going to be trundling down the pit lane now to get the final 37 minutes worth of fuel in to get them over the line. And I wonder if there could be a bit of a race out of the pit lane here between these two drivers that were very close coming into the pits, and I'm sure they're going to be very close at the end. They both pretty much hit their marks at exactly the same time, so.
Yeah, Docker managed to gain about 1.5 seconds on the in-lap, and was consistently about 4 seconds behind, so really did manage to close in quite a bit at the end. It may have just given him a chance. Had a little bit of a short first pit stop they did over Docker, so I expect he's going to have to take a little bit more fuel, and they leave at exactly the same time. There's another car there, as it just goes straight to the safety car. I don't think there's going to be too much of an issue here. Mark Woodhouse, the driver who is a lap down, of course, so if Docker's still behind, no offense to Mike, I doubt he's going to be able to make the move on Ross to the end of this race, but we'll certainly stay very close. As Janssen, oh wow, well I think that's second place. Oh sorry, more like the losing of the lead, getting closer and closer. Now only 9/10 of a second behind. Really fascinating to see how these drivers fight with one another. And well, will they go into the pits potentially? What Setsas will want to do is Janssen come into the pit, and Sinjay will have a nice couple of laps to win this race. They pit on the same lap though, could be a bit of an awkward one for Setsas. But again, we'll be interested to see when Setsas pit. Was that first pit stop deliberate, or was it a mistake? As they go on to lap 44 now, as I get really scared by the eyes of that car, that of the driver that we were just watching there. I'm not sure if you got the same cameras as us.
But if you're looking into the eyes of him, then
honestly, it was pitch black, and then just this figure with terrible dead eyes was staring right at me. So yeah, and that wasn't even on the screen either. So really quite freaked out right now.
There you go. As Setsas runs onto the curbs on the exit. One thing that is interesting is the purple, or I think it's purple, is the hue that we're getting off the side of these Ford GTs. Is that something that you can customise yourself? The different colour that's on the side of the car, or is that something to do with the paint scheme? Not too sure, but it definitely is looking pretty good when we go in the car with the two core sim racing drivers. Definitely make them recognisable out on the circuit. Josh Thompson is doing very well. He's up into 5th place. He's gained quite a few spots now. Obviously, he's been helped by Evdoka and
McFarlane.
There you go. Thank you. Going into the pits. Going into the pits for their second stops. He's currently on his... Don't know if he's just heard us on the stream because he's just started flashing the lights. He has got a 13-second gap though to Christian Rose in front. So I think if he can emerge in 5th after his stop, which could still happen, then I think this could be as good as it's going to get for Josh Thompson. Even with the pace that he has undoubtedly got, 13 seconds to close in just over half an hour is going to be pretty tough, especially against drivers like Christian Rose and Jake Blackwell, who are still doing pretty well at the front of the field. Right then, back with the leaders. 4/10 of a second, 5/10 of a second between the two core sim racing teammates going through the final corner. It's now going to be the moment. It is for one of them, and it's for Carl Janssen, who's going to come down the pit lane, and this releases Sindre Setsas to potentially use those last little bits of fuel that he added in the first stop, Sam, to try and get him back ahead when he comes around to make his stop.
Well, he did have a 12-second longer first pit stop, so if he did take 12 seconds more fuel, he's got more than just a couple of laps. He's potentially going to be able to go... Nah, he's not going to be able to go that much further. Yeah, probably about 5 more minutes at absolute most. So this is big now. Janssen will take as little fuel as possible, of course. And we'll just have to pray that the traffic is kind to him. Because otherwise, it's a bit inevitable that Sindre Setsas is going to take the lead. Janssen, with a 21.37 pit stop stationary. He is now trundling down the pit lane. And I think he should still be in front of Phillips. Yes, he is. So he's got a very nice bit of clean air, actually, does Carl Janssen. And, well, that's pretty much as good as it could have been. He'll just hope now that his teammate has, well, just entered hell in terms of traffic.
Yeah, looking at the pit stop time, yeah, 21.25 seconds for him. Here is Sindre Setsas now. He's just passed, that is the Nomad Sim Racing car. I think that might have been lapped a few more times then, I think during the race. Maybe Jamie Ayres, not too sure. But anyway, he is on his way towards the Le Mans complex of corners. Sindre Setsas, the Ferrari, doing well here. He's got to put in the laps now. He did a 56.9 on that previous tour of the circuit. Josh Thompson's up in 4th actually, after as all that's turned out. I think he's only been to the pits once. I don't trust my timing screen. I think it's probably...
Yeah, only once.
Yeah, only once, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, if he's been in twice, it's going to be a masterstroke if he's found himself in 4th. But here comes the Norwegian. No, not one Norwegian that's doing that's pulling off a masterstroke in Manchester here. What can Sindre Setsas do here at Sebring? Down the pit lane he goes. See if we can get the track map, which has been a bit problematic here today, up. It's Carl Janssen is in 14th place, and if you can see where he is on the timing screen, he is just coming up to Tower Bend now, which I don't trust him. So we'll wait and see if that is definitely where he is. As Setsas hits his marks now, and the fuel comes in what could potentially be the race-winning pit stop.
Yeah, and this shows that he did genuinely have an issue in that first pit stop then. He did lose 12 seconds. That's how strong Sindri Setsas has been to recover that. It needs to be less than 21 seconds. It's 19.18. It's surely going to be enough because Carl Janssen has only just crossed the line, and Sindri Setsas with ease will take the lead in this race, the lead that he lost after the first round of pit stops. He is 2.5 seconds out in the lead, and well, this should be a simple victory for him now. He made it quite difficult for himself after that mistake earlier on, but well, with half an hour to go, he has been able to go from 7th to 1st, and well, what a drive this has been.
It is. Obviously shows him being in 5th place there, but all the cars in front of him do still yet have to make their final pit stop with just over half an hour to go. The gap between them is 2.6 seconds. Carl Janssen put in a decent lap actually on his outer lap. We'll see if he's going to be able to start applying the pressure to Sindri Setsas straight away, or will Sindri do what he did in the early part of the race and just extend the lead. We'll have to wait and see with that one. In terms of the battles further back, we've got still got McFarlane and Avdoka going at it here. McFarlane driving pretty well here, says privateer. I think he has got a team. And Michael Avdoka driving for Fitstyle Motorsports here in 8th, 3 positions gained. Michael Blake in 9th, 4 seconds away. Has gained 18 positions since the start of the race. So good drive so far through the field by the Simortal driver, who we spoke to last week, who did pretty well. But 4 seconds ahead of him, it's these guys. Jake Blackhall is into the pits. This could be interesting because Blackhall was was the car behind Setsas before the pit stops began. So if Blackhall can think of a good way of getting the fuel in, he could throw a potential spanner into the works here. We'll have to wait and see.
I think he'll need a very high pressure fuel rig if he's going to stay out in the lead, unfortunately. How quick is this pit stop? 18, 19, oh, it's a little bit longer. 19.95 to be fair. He's going to be, well, he's behind Janssen, but he's clear of Avdoka and McFarlane. That'll be the one that he cares about. And a podium looking good for him, although Christian Rey still needs to pit as well. Yeah, where will Rose be? Was Rose ahead of Blackhall previously?
No, he wasn't.
I'm not quite sure. No, he wasn't. Okay.
Josh Thompson came into the pits on that occasion as well. 21.1 second stop for him. He's going to emerge just ahead. That is very close there. I think he was just ahead of Dave Baker, in fact. So he's
I think that was
ahead of Baker,
back markers. Yeah.
Those are back markers. Yeah, that is one of the boosted cars, and that is also one of the small time racing cars. Might be not Paul Smith. His colleague not Chris Wood actually. I think it might be Mark Woodhouse out of all of that. So yeah, Josh Thompson comfortably in a nice pocket there because he's got a 6 second gap to Ross McFarlane in front and 3 second advantage over Dave Baker. 6 seconds.
Oh, Spinner in the background, sorry.
Oh yeah, Spinner. That is Adam Hedgecock?
Yeah, Hedgecock, yeah.
Round he goes.
I think that was with Draycott. I'm not sure, or Woodhouse perhaps.
Seeing a close angle here. So he locks up going into the hairpin. Oh, he's trying to get back up to speed, wasn't he? And the small time racing car. Or was it Chaz? No, it wasn't Chaz Drake. I think it was Mark Woodhouse. Got up to power before he did. We can have a look at it again. Here it is. This time we'll go on board with Mark Woodhouse. There's the lockup. Oh, they just end up being on the same bit of track at the same time there.
Yeah, maybe a little bit clumsy there from Mark, but to be fair, it's difficult to judge in that situation, and I'm sure he'll be very apologetic after the race for the small time racing driver, currently in 28th place, I believe, as I quickly check. No, he's higher than that, sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure where he is, sorry. No, he's 30th, apologies. Yeah, it doesn't really matter too much in terms of the precise. Oh, and off goes. Is that Avdoka?
Yeah.
Well, he was having a fantastic race. I was thinking, is he going to get caught by Josh Thompson by the end of this one? Well, he's been caught, and now he's been passed by Josh Thompson. That's going to be a lot of damage for Evdoka. He was having a faultless race, looking as though he could maybe even score a top 5 there. But, well, he's going to be far away from that now.
He was all sorts of all over the place going through the final corner there as well. You would have thought something might have been slightly off with the car, maybe the tyres. Obviously, these drivers probably aren't going to be changing them. And here we go on board with him into the first corner. No, there's literally nothing. Literally nothing. No grip whatsoever going on in that car going through that first corner. Turned into the sunset bends, just about made it through there. Turns into the first corner, literally no response. Is he going to make it through the rest of the corners okay? Yeah, they all seem fine. So whatever happened to Michael Evdoka going through that final sector and beginning of the lap, it's been pretty chaotic. He's dropped down to 7th place as a result, and Dave Baker's only 0.6 of a second behind as Sindre Setsas and Carl Janssen take up their usual places at the front again after Christian Rose comes into the pits for his final stop.
He went a far way though, didn't he? Christian Rose, you haven't seen anyone else pit for about 5 minutes. That could benefit him. He's going to need to literally leave now if he's going to win. No, he's, well, Setsas just passed him anyway. He would have literally just had to not taken any fuel, I think, if he was going to stay in the lead there. Rose, but will he be 3rd? I don't... Oh, no, he's down to 4th already. It's quite a long pit stop, in fact, for Christian Rose. So I wonder if he's picked up a penalty here, because he's still in the pits. 34, 35. So, oh, this is horrendous to see for the driver who had put himself into a really good position there, and now is having his race absolutely ruined by a pit stop, which already is some half a minute longer than the other drivers. And tyres, why on earth has he taken tyres? Maybe it really is difficult out there on those tyres. I wouldn't have thought it would be. He's down into 9th place. Well, he's only 4 seconds behind Rushworth, 9 seconds behind Baker, and 9 seconds behind Evdoka. So he could still get 6th place. But, well, I thought a top 5 was possible. Maybe even a top 4. But no, he's changed tyres there. Unusual decision.
Don't know if we're going to see a storming drive from him now that he's got the tyres changed. Here's a battle between Michael Evdoka and Dave Baker going into the hairpin here. This is over 6th and 7th place. Fitstein Motorsports versus CQR Race Hub in the battle for to be 6th in the closing stages of this race. Evdoka's had all sorts of issues in the last few laps or so. I wonder if he's in limp home mode now with just over 24 minutes to go. Round the outside goes Dave Baker. That's going to be a good move if it works out. Evdoka gives him the space on the inside, but it's going to quickly switch back in Evdoka's favour here, going into Tower Bend. Up the inside goes the Ferrari, and he's able to hold on to his spot, but good battle there. And Dave Baker flashes the lights. I don't know whether that's out of frustration or whether that's out of hello friend, that was a good battle. And they could
yes, I think the prior is more likely than the latter there. I think if Evdoka can finish in 6th place in this race, that would be some achievement, I must say, because with the damage that he's got on that car and with the amount he's been struggling with those tyres in the past few laps, as Baker looks to the inside, it's going to be an ambitious move, but Dave Baker had the acceleration and he moves ahead of the Englishman. And well, Evdoka, well, like I said, he was always going to struggle to hold on to P6. Well, I doubt he's going to be able to hold off Rushworth either. It's not looking good for Michael Evdoka. Maybe P9 is going to be as best as he gets. He's got 22 seconds to 10th place Richard Warmingham. But I feel like Rushworth and Rose are almost certainly going to be able to get that one done by the end of the race.
The track limit cynics out there may have had a bit of an issue with Dave Baker's overtake there, because he was clearly on the inside of the yellow line, I thought, there, going into Sunset Bend. But no matter, the move stands, and Baker through. Car 6 into 6th place. I'm sure he wouldn't have had it any other way with just over 20 minutes to go now in this race. Sindre Setsas leads Carl Janssen by 4 and a bit seconds. Jake Blackhall is down in 3rd. He's 12 seconds away from Janssen. Then it's Ross McFarlane in 4th. Then it's Josh Thompson in 5th. What a drive through the field this has been from Josh Thompson. There he is. He is 3 seconds away from Ross McFarlane and was lapping half a second quicker on that previous tour of the circuit. Basic maths works out that won't take too many laps for him to close that gap down if he wants a chance of getting into 4th by the end of the race. Then it's Dave Baker in 6th place. He's got Michael Evdoka for company there in 7th. Then it's Jamie Rushworth. Then it's Christian Rose in 9th. Just a few seconds between them. And then it's Danny McCauley in 10th with Richard Warmingham starting to close the gap in with, is that Ben Palmer for company? So we've got a very good battle going on here. We've got Andy Shield in 13th. Oh, off! It's Warmingham.
He's got a hardware failure, I think, because he lost the car and now he's gone back to the pits. So, or has he crashed it just prior, where he seems to have quite a lot of damage on that car? Oh, there you go. He's gone spearing off into the wall, as Richard.
So he's flashing the lights at... Oh dear. Now, is that just a miscommunication? I think poor Lee Deemer, or whoever that Sim Auto car was, trying to get out of the way and let him through. That's what it looked like to me anyway. And shades of Spa 98 there. Now on the follow-up, I think, yeah, Richard Warmingham, the car is all sorts of all over the place. He can't even turn the car. And he has to pull over to the pits and call it a day. This is definitely worth looking at again here, he says, trying to find it on the replay here.
I think it was just, again, an innocent mistake. Warmingham trying to get as much slipstream as he possibly could. And, well, yeah, just was a little bit late to pull out. I'm not sure if it was the fact that he wanted to go to the inside there, or whether it was the case that he wanted that the other driver just lifted off the throttle. No, he didn't want to go to the inside. He just got caught out by the Simulta car lifting off the power, and the kind of how much he gained was a little bit too much fun. And he has now disconnected as well, so that's the end of his day. I was talking how he was in 10th place. It would have been a really nice points haul for Richard Warmingham, the XVR team, of course, with Johnny Brandon and Nicole Foggy not here today. He was the #1 XVR driver. Lane O'Connor not having the best day out there. I don't think he is, at least. I'm not quite sure. In fact, he's 27th place, which isn't bad for O'Connor. Up 21 places from his start. But yeah, that's will be an annoying one for Richard Warmingham, no doubt.
Good battle here between Tom Jacobs and Paul Smith. These guys are just a few tenths of a second apart, going through the S's here. Hackerson in 20th, then it's Paul Smith in 21st, then Tom Jacobs in 22nd. Decent battle going on outside the top 20 here, as we are pretty much in total darkness now for the final 18 minutes. Paul Smith in the small time racing car, trying to keep the beast racing car at bay. See if we can look back from Paul Smith. We'll see a definite huge amount of headlights. Up the inside goes the beast racing car, then into the right hander. Is Paul Smith going to give him the space? He just about does. And they very nearly come together. Around the outside goes Jacobs. That's going to be a fantastic move. He can get it done into Tower Bend. Paul Smith doesn't look like he's going to be able to do anything about it. He looks back up the inside, and the move has been done. And Tom Jacobs in the Beast racing car up 2 places now from where he started into 21st place. Paul Smith back down to 22nd where he started. Yeah, and this would be a really nice result there for Tom, because he hasn't been able to attend, I think, either of the first 2 races of the season. So a 21st in an endurance race like this against such good quality opposition would be a very nice points haul. Next up for him is Hackerson, I think, but I think he's not too far behind. I think he's only a couple of seconds behind, so that could be possible. As we see Rose, of course, on those fresh tyres, on that last lap, he was a second faster than the race leader. He was 1.75 seconds faster than Carl Janssen. I'm not sure if it's going to be worth it for Rushworth, but he's undoubtedly going to get past Rushworth and Evdoka. Could maybe get past Baker. Could McFarlane and Thompson even be possible if he can keep up this pace? Anything could be possible, maybe even P4. It's going to make things even more dramatic, because these guys in front, their tyres are going to start getting even worse as the race gets to the end. Here comes Rose up the inside. CQR Racer versus CQR GT. Rushworth gives him some of the room on the inside. Up the inside goes Christian Rose, and he's now back up into 8th place. If he wants to look at it in terms of profit and loss of positions gained, he probably could make it back up to where he started. Looking at the gaps, it's 1.4 seconds then to Michael Evdoka, and then it's a further 3 seconds to Jamie Rushworth. Last time around, sorry, not to Jamie Rushworth, to Josh Thompson. The lap times last time around, 57.1 for Rose, Josh Thompson did a 56.9, but we're not too worried about him. It's a 57.3 from Dave Baker that we want to look at. That was only 0.2 of a second slower, so unless Baker's tyres really start to suffer, it might just be 7th place that is as good as it will get for Christian Rose as he starts to try and close that gap to Michael Evdoka in front of him.
He did do a 56.1 though, the lap prior, so I think lost a little bit of time trying to get past Jamie Rushworth. I'm sure talking down the straight is really struggling out there, so that will be a move done very quickly. McFarlane then versus Thompson. How much will McFarlane defend? He's got quarter of an hour to hold on. Does he think that's feasible? He just had a very poor lap time, lost about 1.8 seconds to Thompson on that last lap alone. I'm not sure whether that was with traffic or maybe a mistake. Still being a good performance though from the 127 driver. But Thompson edging closer and closer currently. And yeah, McFarlane is currently 12 seconds ahead of Rose. So Rose would need to close in by about 1.5 seconds a lap. Could be possible.
Here's a battle though. It's Christian Rose on Michael Evdoka. He's wasted no time. He was about a second behind when he got past Jamie. He's now going to be wheel to wheel for 7th place here as we look from the helicopter going into the final corner. Round the outside he goes. There is just enough space out there. Look at the speed he can carry into that final corner. He might not hit the apex, he might, but it's good enough. And Christian Rose is now into 7th. 3.6 seconds is the gap to try and get past Dave Baker. Lap times as he comes across the line. As a car on the way there, no need to worry about that. Dave Baker does a 57.6, 56.6 for Christian Rose. That's a second, and and even on that lap he was having to get past Michael Evdoka. So Christian Rose, the man of the moment right here at Sebring, he is going to be trying to get that 6th place back in the final 15 minutes of this one.
Thompson just had a very poor lap as well. He just dropped into the 58s. So if he can't get out of the 58s and Rose stays in the mid 56s, then yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I guess speculation is all well and good, but we'll have to see if Rose can keep up this pace. But Dave Baker, great job though from Baker. To be fair, he was in 9th place early on, kind of getting a little bit detached from the top 8. But he's kind of benefited from the mistakes from Evdoka and Rushworth, and also McCauley as well. And he's yeah, gained 3 positions through that method, up into 6th place now. But I'm not sure if it's going to last too much longer. But still, to only be 8 seconds off Ross McFarlane, you think he lost that in the first 10 laps or so right at the start. Could have well been fighting for a top 4 if it weren't for maybe a little bit of a disappointing start from his perspective.
See how the gaps come down. It was 7 seconds on lap 49. Now on lap 55 it's 3.6. May even be less than that by the time we get around to the line. You can just about make out Christian Rose in that shot there as Dave Baker comes up to lap another car. CQR car, in fact, I think, as he gets out of the way. And now we'll see what the gap is as we come across the line. Dave Baker in his CQR race sub Porsche comes over the timing line now and does a 57.3. What's Christian Rose going to do? He comes across the line now and has got the gap down to 2.8 seconds. Michael Evdoka is going to get passed by Jamie Rushworth going into this first corner, I think, as this battle carries on. Evdoka v Rushworth. And it is going to be very, very close. It's Evdoka on the inside, fighting for all he's got. Don't know whether his tyres are just absolutely destroyed, hence the 2 mistakes that we saw earlier. But now here comes Jamie, flying through the big bend and on towards the hairpin, under the bridge as well. Hard on the brakes. It's the Ferrari that is ahead. And hits the apex as well, so Jamie Rushworth not able to get up the inside of him on the exit. But now as we go through where we saw that huge incident earlier with the XVR green car of Richard Warmingham. Now into the right-hander here. Rushworth, I think, just taking his time, Sam, because he can quite clearly see that Michael Evdoka is in some sort of difficulty, and he doesn't want to end up taking himself out. But Evdoka putting up a good defence so far. He might just suffer a little bit on the exit tower. He was really covering the inside line there.
Yeah, the good thing for these two is that they are 20 seconds ahead of the drivers behind, and they are 5 seconds behind the drivers ahead, so they can pretty much lose each other as much time as they like, and it's not going to be too bad. Evdoka taking a really tight line, but getting it stopped on the apex. Rushworth will have to go down the long way, I think, which is what we saw Christian Rose being able to pull off so well earlier on. Rushworth pulling alongside, just pulling ahead now. Has Evdoka got any resistance to this time? He will try to stay down the inside, but Rushworth with too much speed, he's almost losing the car there though. And all of a sudden, Evdoka coming back at him, and he's got a much better run. Across the line they'll go, and Evdoka, at least at the end of lap 55, will just be ahead. But now Rushworth has got the ideal racing line. The wide turning really does benefit the car on the inside, and Evdoka's valiant defense of 8th position finally comes to an end.
Yeah, Evdoka down to 9th place now, and you are right, it's an 18-second gap back to Daniel Macaulay after that, so these two really fighting on their own really. David Baker update, it is 2.3 seconds between him and Christian Rose, but Jake Blackhall, Ross McFarlane and Josh Thompson could be about to heat up again. It's just 7/10 of a second between these two as we get a look in at those drivers now going through the complex. Ross McFarlane last time around did a 57.7, 57.1 done by Josh Thompson in the Ford. Wonder if he's just resting, cooling the tyres off for a little bit on a few occasions and then getting right back on it again as they go through the Le Mans complex. Just 10 minutes to go now, so time is starting to run out. So it's just about 2-minute laps, so we've got around 5 laps or so to decide this here at Sebring International Raceway. Of course, next week the World GT Championship will be on a week break, but after that it will return, and it will be returning to Asia, to the Suzuka circuit. Another narrow circuit as well, with not too much runoff area. I'm sure the drivers are going to have fun with that one. It's going to be really interesting to see the rolling start into turn 1, especially in 3 20-minute races where every position and every corner in races such as that are going to be so crucial.
Yeah, it's not the easiest circuit to overtake round, so and like you said, very narrow. It's a legendary circuit though, of course, and pretty much anything you drive it round, you know, is really good fun. They've only ever done like maybe 1 week in the GTEs around that circuit. It's not necessarily the most common combo, not massively popular with multi-class racing. Of course, this isn't multi-class, so it shouldn't be an issue. But yeah, these GTEs should go very well round that circuit. So, what are you going to do next week? Of course, we do have the Mazdas on a Monday though, so I'm sure we'll be tuning in for that one instead. As Thompson within half a second now of his rival, as well as Chris Danes getting close to Dion Phillips, who had a few kind of poor laps, I think. Oh, sorry, Phillips is ahead of these guys, but not that far ahead. Simon Underhill trying to get past Chris Danes, and they go across the line, and all of a sudden Underhill really close to the back of his rival. It's only a 1/10 of a second. He'll look to the inside. There's almost contact between the two of them, but he's going to have to look maybe later on in the lap to make that position for 17th.
Good battle, just showing what's going on in the midfield there between the Northern Lights Racing GT Omega car and the Nomad car. Back here in the fight for third then. Sorry, the fight for 4th between Josh Thompson and Ross McFarlane. Don't know why it says the battle for second. No need to P alarm there. Obviously Thomas will probably catch up in a second, but Ross McFarlane, he really doesn't want to lose that 4th place now after keeping Thompson at bay for so long. You can see that just by the way that he moved over to defend the inside line a little bit down the back straight. Now going through the final corner through Sunset Bend and back on to the front straight again. 7 minutes to go around Sebring, and you can see in the RVs on the inside of the first corner they've all got their lights on there. Probably not in there, they're probably watching the action we've got here. Don't know where on the circuit we've got Dale Jr. and Tony Gardner, but they're probably somewhere. They're probably enjoying the action as well. And Ross McFarlane's path is being very well lit by Josh Thompson behind as they go under one of the many bridges around this circuit and onto the big bend leading into the hairpin here. And Ross McFarlane just looks like he's just about quick enough in some of these corners where he's able to create just a big enough buffer to keep Josh Thompson at bay. But the gap's now down to 4 tenths, but McFarlane, good on the exit and is able to pull just a few quick hundredths of a second in hand to make it a little bit tougher for Josh Thompson.
Underhill has now got past Danes, by the way, although they are having quite a good battle, still very close to one another. But I think, in fact, I think Danes may have just taken that position back, so really good battle between those two. Also, Baker and Rose closing in on one another. That gap is now down to less than 4/10 of a second. Rose was 7/10 faster on that last lap, so it's all coming back alive at the end of this one. Maybe not for the race lead, because Sindre Setsas and Carl Jensen are still cruising ahead, but certainly for the battle for 4th and 5th is still very much ignited. But Thompson now 1.5 seconds behind as he just picked up a slowdown.
Could potentially be that. I think Thompson picked up a slowdown earlier on in the race too, so it looks like that corner may have come back to haunt him. Meanwhile, Dave Baker, who's been in 6th place for quite a while, has now finally been caught and finally been passed by Christian Rose. So the new tyres have got Christian Rose, car 93, back to where he started. With 5 minutes to go, I don't think there's any hope of him making up the 5 seconds to catch Josh Thompson. So I think he might just take what he can get here. But to take the tyres, and which was a bit of a bold call, and sit in the pit stop for the best part of a minute, and to get back going again and get up to 6th place shows that the tyres did have some strength. And maybe, who knows, if there was a late race safety car or something like that in the World GT Championship. I don't know whether that would have been possible, but it could have been even more. Could have been even more exciting for him. But yeah, it looks like 6th place is what Christian Rose is going to get, as so long as he doesn't make any mistakes. As a few more cars get lapped by the 2 CQR Race Hub teammates. In fact, we've got a trio of CQR Race Hub cars. We've got Thompson in 5th, then Rose, then Baker 6th and 7th, with 4 minutes to go now.
Yeah, they always seem to assemble on the same piece of circuit, which is very impressive. Like I said earlier on, they'd rather be 1st, 2nd, 3rd, but 5th, 6th and 7th is still a very impressive performance. I think they've all had their different issues. You just wonder though where Thompson would have been. Of course, he's still within half a minute of the race lead, and he fell half a minute behind about half an hour into the race. So pretty much for the entire race, he's been on par with the 2 leaders out there, Setsas and Janssen, despite having to make his way through a lot of traffic as well, making it up through the position. So he, I'm sure, will be back very strongly next week, and will not be far off the championship lead either, exiting the first 3 rounds, which will be pretty happy with after not having the best of Watkins Glen's round, certainly not maximising his points. Rose only 6 seconds now behind. He's closed in by another 2 seconds on this lap alone. He's not going to catch, unfortunately, but he's going to be within about 4 seconds by the close as we enter the last 3 minutes. We've got this one and one more. So, if Thompson wants to get 4th place, he's got to get on with it, as he gets within 4.5 of the driver ahead, which is pretty much as close as he's been all race.
He seems to have it in flashes here, Josh Thompson. He seems to get right with Ross McFarlane and then drop back a little bit. But he's here again now. You can see the gap there, 0.3 of a second. Is Thompson going to have a little bit of a look? He definitely closes up under braking there. You can see right into the helmet of Josh Thompson. I believe that's the helmet that he uses for his karting out on the Isle of Man into the go-kart track there. It is pretty good. Lots of undulation there. Did it in the wet as well, which made it quite entertaining. But definitely no sign of rain here at Sebring in Florida, and I don't think Thompson can pull on much from his karting experience to help him here in the Ford GT. Car 49 going into Tower Bend. There it is. A little bit of a twitch there from Ross McFarlane in the Ferrari. Both the Ferrari and the Ford GT were introduced on iRacing at exactly the same time, in time for the Le Mans 24 Hours of 2017. Here in 2019, as we approach the end of January, who is going to be celebrating going into the off week here in the World GT Championship of getting 4th place? Maybe a minor consolation, as Thompson could have essentially got 2nd, or maybe even better than that, but I think to get back up to 4th, he'll be pretty happy. And as Sam mentioned, we are starting the final lap of the race.
Thompson couldn't quite nail the run through Sunset Bend. I think turn 1 was probably his best chance. He's lost that now. It's going to be some effort. I think he'd be quite happy with 5th, to be honest. It's a handful of points. Was down at 21st at one point. I was writing him off and claiming a top 8. So getting 5th would be an awesome result. Of course, 4th even better. But he will take this one. Still 4 tenths behind. So he's going to struggle to get it done. Half a lap to go though for Sindre Setsas. He is still 8.5 seconds clear of Carl Janssen. 15 seconds clear of Jake Blackhall. And what a performance this has been. You think he threw away over 10 seconds, 12 seconds in the pit stops in his first stop. If it weren't for that, he could have been 20 seconds clear. Of course, he's been cruising the last few minutes as well. He's been a class above everyone else. Maybe Josh Thompson could have battled him, but then he overtook Josh Thompson on lap 1, of course. No doubt that he has been the deserved winner out there, and he's despite a couple of issues, he's done it with ease.
Really has. Wasn't too flustered by the fuel strategy earlier on, and he's going to come through the final corner now, under the lights here at Sebring. It's a fantastic day for core sim racing. It's going to be a 1-2 for the team, but it's going to be a race victory in the 2-hour endurance race here at Sebring for Sindre Setsas. Carl Janssen in the 4GT is going to follow his teammate home. It's a Scandinavian top 2, with Sweden finishing in 2nd with Carl Janssen, and Norway finishing atop the podium with Sindre Setsas. Jake Blackhall, the Aussie, comes across the line to finish in 3rd. But who's going to finish in 4th? It's wheel to wheel. It's going to be a drag race to the line. It's going to be Ferrari versus Ford. Wheel to wheel. Thompson's in the wall. He's going to still come across the line. But it's going to be 4th for McFarlane, 5th for Tomo. And Christian Rose very nearly got them at the line then, Sam.
Yeah, he was only, I think, 2 seconds off 4th place in the end. Of course, one more lap and he would have certainly got 5th, maybe even 4th. So, we'll be, very nearly through a race. Not sure if that tyre strategy works out or not, but of course, still 6th place. Very good for him. He was the championship leader, he won't be anymore. Sindre Setsas will be the leader of the championship. Still should be 2nd though, Christian Rose. He can take a lot of promise from today's results. Don't know if we could just get a replay of that Thompson big fine, because from my point of view it was over for Thompson and he managed to get himself in the mix going through Sunset Bend, but just couldn't get on the run to the line.
Yeah, it was very close indeed. Just seeing if we can get that for you. Actually, here it is. This was actually on earlier on in the final lap. But we can follow it through anyway, as the rest of the cars come across the line. This is what was going on while we were looking at it. Thompson goes for the inside, going into the right-hander. Goes a bit too deep, goes over the curve. Car gets unsettled, gets going again. Ross McFarlane carries on. And into Tower Bend, I'm guessing as everybody is now finished. We'll get the results up on your screen shortly. Then this, I'm guessing for the last third of the lap, Thompson is going to try and regather and try and get back by. Just find them on the summary screen so I can find them, because obviously when the full results come on, the screen gets a bit scrambled. Here we go. This is the run to sunset. Then Ross McFarlane gets very, very wide, goes onto the grass almost. Thompson needs no help from that. He goes to the outside, and probably what's the best way to see what's going to happen here? Maybe with Thompson. Through the final corner. Here it is from Chase Cam actually. Here we go. This is a run to the line. Oh dear. And then there goes Christian Rose flying by.
Well, I'd be glad they didn't have to drive many more competitive corners with that car, because I'm pretty sure it would have been horrendous to drive. But still, good result for Josh. 5th place, up 16 places from where he was at one point, and no doubt he'll be one of the favourites this season. It's been a very positive start for for him in this championship.
Well, as the cars head back to the pits, I don't think we've got any fireworks as we try to overlook the circuit. No, I don't think we have. But let's bring up the final results then from here at Sebring. I don't think that's right, but Sindre Setsas wins. Kai Janssen in second. Jake Blackhall finishing in third. I don't think Sindre Setsas lapped everybody. He was quick today, but he definitely wasn't that quick. Josh Thompson finishing in fifth. Christian Rose sixth. Dave Baker in seventh. Jamie Rushworth in 8th with Michael Evdoka 9th and Daniel McCauley rounding out the top 10. 11th for Ben Palmer, car number 1. Andy Shealing 12th. 13th for Chris Wood. 14th for Bart Delmont. And then 15th for Bart Delmont. 16th for Michael Blake. 17th for Simon Underhill. Then 18th for Jerome Kaiser. A trio of AM drivers there. Then 19th for Chris Daines. Ben Hackerson in 20th. 21st for Tom Jacobs. Michael Hall in 22nd. And then more Pro-Am drivers to run you through. Small Time Racing's Paul Smith in 23rd, David White in 24th, 25th for Ronald Moons, then Mike Gray in 26th. Lane O'Connor finishing in 27th for XVR Green, 28th for Chaz Draycott, then Mark Woodhouse in 29th, Lars Van Ryn in 30th. Jamie Ayres finishing in 31st place, the Welshman, 32nd for Jason Rowe, Adam Hedgecock and John Roberts, two Booster with Savage Gaming teammates there in those positions. Then Scott Malcolm and Morgan Butler. And then the rest of the field, Richard Warmingham, Lee Deemer, Anthony Jacobson, Steve Burke. Many of these cars having issues during the race. Robert Lundgren was one Swede that didn't have a good race today. He was flat packing his way out of here. Rusty Laidler in 42nd for CQR Tarkov. Jesse Stevens finishing in 43rd. Dave Janssen started from the pit lane and didn't feature much, the Belgian, finishing in 44th. Steve Lavallee in 45th, and then more cars had issues. Josh Rayfield, Luke Clark, Stuart Atkinson, Max Spooner, and Ben Gregory, 53 laps down, didn't really feature much at all in this race. Hopefully we can see him back on all four wheels on the ground for the next race in 2 weeks when the championship heads to Asia, to Suzuka, for round 4 of the championship.
Yes, and I think we have a few interviews with drivers. So I think we'll first have a chat, well, of course, with our race winner, Sindre Setsas. And Sindre, that was pretty insane, your pace out there today. But something that we were super confused about, your first pit stop, it seemed to go on for a while.
Yeah, this is my me and Carl was talking together, and like we wanted to make sure we had a core car take the win today. So what we decided to do was, since I know the Ferrari is a bit worse on tires, Carl skipped tires the entire race through, and then I decided to take left side tires on the first pit stop.
Ah, okay, so that certainly explains it. Do you think that was the wise decision in the end? Because we saw a few drivers out there really struggling at the end of the race, particularly in the Ferrari.
Yeah, I think it worked out. I think it was definitely the strategy to go with the Ferrari. I think maybe the circumstances could have been a bit better. Like coming out of the pits, I've never done that strategy. I know it's been done in the past, but I've never like actually done it myself. So I was kind of just had to like get used to the car again, and then I got hit by a backmarker out of the hairpin on like lap 2 after the pit stop, and that cost me like 2 seconds. So that was not ideal, but it worked out in the end anyway.
Yeah, definitely, and probably. I'm not quite sure what the race defining moment was, but you had to pull off a lot of overtakes in the end to win that one. You made the overtake on Thompson early on, then you had to rise yourself from about 7th to 1st in the second half of the race. A lot of drivers were struggling to make the moves, and yet you seem to be easing your way through. Not too many, hairy moments either. You seem to make the overtakes very efficiently.
I had some hairy moments with some cars here and there, but like the overtakes that was for position seemed to be quite fine. I think the tires helped me a lot because I seem to just, like, especially high speed corners, I seem to get lot better exit. I think that was key to me making passes. I made a few passes into sunset as well. I think I just had more confidence because I took those left side tires, so I knew I would have more grip, especially in that first stint after taking those 2 tires.
Well, it's great to watch you today, Sinjay. And before we let you go, any shout outs you'd like to give?
I want to thank Core Sim Racing, of course. I want to thank Carl for keeping me updated with how his race is going, strategy, everything like that, working together. That's good. And then I want to thank you guys for putting this show on. It's pretty.
Thanks, Sinjay. And we'll see you in a fortnight's time.
Yeah.
Good job by Sinjay. Set us out there today. We can move on to the man who finished second today. His teammate Carl Jansen. And get him up for a quick word. And he joins us now in the commentary box. We've just been speaking to your teammate Sinjay. Good race by both of you, both teammates today, in a second place as well. Are you happy with that result?
Yeah, I mean, it was very good, to be honest. It's I think it's the most I could pull out after my bad qualifying. I got stuck behind 2 Porsches, and you basically couldn't touch the Porsches. They had so much traction out of the corners. They just flew away from us, even if whatever you did. Like, you had to wait for a mistake from the Porsches and then make a pass from there.
And by the time you got back past them, your teammate was pretty much up the road. But after the first round of pit stops, you've managed to find yourself back in the lead due to your teammate having a slightly longer stop.
Yeah, so we went for 2 different strategies. I took 0 tires in that stop, and then he took tires basically, and it paid off for the first 2 stints, and then for the last stint, the tires fell off so much I couldn't keep up anymore.
With the race starting in daytime and ending at night, did the track change too much during the race went on? Obviously, your tyres will have degraded a little bit, but was there too much going on once the sun had gone down?
No, it started in a quite cold weather still, so the flow of the track was still pretty cold the whole time through, and with it going down like that, not like super fast and going down a little bit slower, then you adjust to it all the time.
Next week then, 2 weeks time, because we've got a week off, is Suzuka. We're back to the free 20-minute races. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer the endurance layout that we've got today, or the quick fire races that we've got coming up in a couple of weeks' time?
I like the 3 races. It's much more fun, with the reverse grid and everything. Get a lot of passing and a lot of action like this. It was very fun until the first stop, basically, and then after that, everything is just pulled out, basically. So don't have anyone to fight with, really.
Cool. Well, before we let you go, do you want to send a quick shout out to anybody?
Yeah, I want to thank everyone at the Core Sim Racing and also Sindre for racing with me in this series. I think we did make a really good combo, to be honest. And then, of course, you guys for streaming.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for putting on a good shout there. Your team was pretty much unstoppable today. We'll see if they're able to catch you next in 2 weeks' time at Suzuka.
All right, see you later.
Carl Jansen there, and who should we go on to next? We've got Christian Rose, who was on the fresh tyres right at the very end of the race. We've got Daniel McCauley, we've got Josh Thompson, and we've got Michael Blake as well. I think we will go on to 2 teammates. We'll get Christian Rose, and we'll get Josh Thompson in as well, which will leave us with I say that we'll get those 2 in. The 2 CQR Race Hub teammates join us now. Christian Rose and Josh Thompson. Christian, we'll come to you first. You were on fire towards the end of the race, thanks to those tyres that you put on at the pit stop. You were flying through the field at the end there.
Yeah, that was really good fun. The intention wasn't to take tyres, but I pushed a little bit too hard in the middle stint. I didn't want to go below that 50% on the tyre wear, so I thought I'll take some fresh ones and have some fun.
And Josh, he very nearly caught you by the end there.
Yeah, lucky enough, just managed to hold on to it.
It was a good battle between you and Ross McFarlane. Got pretty close on the last lap as well. You went for that move up the inside halfway around the lap and then had another go coming through the final corner. It was a good thing it was the last lap, otherwise that Ford would have been pretty much impossible to handle if you had to go around for one more lap.
I think by then, if that was with 1 lap to go, I'd have just parked it. I was that annoyed with how the race had gone for me. So I gave it all. I knew by then I've already clocked up at loads of incidents, just having to come through, just avoiding stuff, and obviously got quite a few at the start. So any point I could gain on track was really the only way I could kind of reduce that.
Yeah, I think that right-hander towards the end of the lap, I think you picked up 1 or 2 slowdown penalties there. I think I would have been going mental with that corner in particular by the end of it. But still, you've got a week off now and a good consolidated 5th place. And you'll be able to come back firing again at Suzuka, potentially.
It'll be tough. It'll be really tough. The Ford has not got what it used to have. A lot of people don't agree with what I've said, but I think Carl said it. We are struggling. We're out in the Ford. We're really struggling. So I'll just have to see how it goes. Just have to work extra hard into the setup.
Now, in comparison, Chris, the Porsche, how's that handling in comparison to the Ford out there?
Yeah, I'm loving it. The Porsche really suits my driving style anyway. But yeah, no, it's got very, very, very good traction, and I think that was fairly obvious here with a lot of very slow traction zones, especially being a bumpy circuit as well. I would just quickly like to say Jake Blackhall did an absolutely fantastic job. Grabbed 3rd place. He's not had the best of luck at the start of this season, so I'm really pleased, proud of him that he's pulled out a really fantastic result tonight.
Yeah, good result for him in the CQR Tarkov car to finish within touching distance of the core sim racing guys. Yeah, Suzuka next week, Christian. It's 2 weeks time, I should say. 3 20-minute races. Probably going to be a bit similar to the last 20 minutes of this one that you had, fighting through the field with the new tyres and the reverse grid as well. The organisers have picked some good tracks to go to. This one's going to be another tough test for you, with it being pretty narrow and the tyre barriers being pretty close to the circuit. And with 3 rolling starts and the reverse grid too, that first corner is going to be pretty hectic.
Yeah, Suzuka's a very challenging circuit, but I think there's plenty of scope for overtaking and plenty of good racing. So we've got 2 weeks now for people to cool down, relax, and then get back into it, get some laps in, and yeah, looking forward to it already, really.
Oh yeah, guys, enjoy the week off. Josh, I hope the Ford somehow becomes drivable again for you.
Oh, you just see me turn up in the Ferrari.
Just it begins with an F. That doesn't. There you go. Maybe change the badge as well or something. I'm sure they won't notice. But yeah, I don't think there's too many corners where you can pick up slowdowns either at Suzuka. So
I hope not. I'll probably find some.
There you go. That's a task for you to work on in practice. Yeah, guys, thanks for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Chris, if you want to send a quick shout out to anybody.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to yourselves for the fantastic broadcast as always. Really, really look forward to watching them back. Again, to everyone at CQR, yeah, thanks very much. Cheers.
Josh, anything for you?
Basically the same as what Gracie said, but obviously on top of that, just me, everyone at Movano. I know them guys are watching, so a bit disappointed in myself not to bring home the win, which I felt I probably could have had. But anyway, move on to the next one.
All right, cheers, guys. Thanks for speaking to us, and yeah, enjoy the week off. We'll see you in a few weeks.
See you later, guys.
Thank you.
Josh Thompson and Christian Rose there. Right, Sam, we've got 2 drivers that have been waiting patiently to speak to us. Daniel McCauley was right in the thick of the action. We've got him, and we've also got Michael Blake, so we can drag them up. I think we can have a quick word with them and then be on our way.
Yes, and yeah, Dan McCauley first. Dan, it was a really good start for you. You were fighting, for 3rd and 4th and 5th positions. It was really competitive. You just seemed to lose a little bit of time at your first pit stop. Just take us through that.
well, I think I was a little bit out of place for qualifying anyway. I somehow managed to pull that lap out of the bag. But the first stint, I was trying really hard to keep with Jake, but I just kept locking the front and wore the tyres down too far. So with a few mistakes I was making, I thought I'd take the alternate strategy and take tyres at the first stop, which is why I lost all the time. But by the time it gave me back, I managed to claw my way back up to 10th. I think I was lapping like a second a lap quicker than some of the midfield at one point. So personally, I think that alternate strategy paid off.
Yeah, I think it probably did. Getting 10th place would have been super difficult to get anything higher than 9th, certainly. We saw a lot of clean racing out there. Some really good wheel-to-wheel action. How's it from your perspective? The wheel-to-wheel combat and the overtaking for position seem to be really high quality.
The quality of racing on the first 15 laps or so for me was unbelievable. How those guys can keep that pace and race so close to each other is unbelievable. I think me and Ross McFarlane done a lap within 2/10 of each other the whole time, and there was no contact, and we overtook each other twice, and it was really, really good at the start. But those guys at the front are just a completely different level on how they can keep that speed consistency and get that close to each other without any contact. So real kind of hats off to the quality of the field that we've got here in World GT.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we saw the day to night transitions. I don't know if you've ever done a race kind of in this format previously, but how did you find out there in terms of just the visibility? Did you kind of notice how it was getting darker? Because it's a very impressive kind of gradual effect that iRacing have.
I think the day to night transitions is a fantastic addition to the sim. It really adds some more depth to it. I didn't notice it too much when it first started to get dark because I was kind of in a different world just trying to catch everyone else, and I always had a car in front of me. But as soon as I came out the pits on that second stop, it took me like 5 or 6 laps to get into a rhythm of, okay, it's dark now, this is where I've got to brake, and trying to relearn all your apexes. Probably should have done a bit more testing in the dark, to be honest.
It was great to watch you out there, Dan, and before we let you go, any shout outs you'd like to give?
Just everyone at CQR, you guys for the broadcast. I'd also like to give a shout out to the race up team and Jake for the amazing results. Just like to thank Race Hub in general for everything they do for the series and the team. Jake at Night Rider Designs for the paints, and that's about it.
Thanks, Dan, and we'll see you soon on Apex Racing TV and the iRacing Esports Network.
Catch you guys later.
Of course, we've also got Michael Blake. And Michael, we didn't see a whole lot of you out there, but 27th to 16th, just quietly went about your business. In the end, couldn't quite catch up to Phillips and Daleman, but you guys were having a great battle throughout.
Yeah, it was good. They started to catch me at the end, and I triple stinted the tyres, and they just fell off the last sort of 5 minutes. It was more important to keep Underhill behind me so I could win the AM than it was to keep Phillips and Dalman. Really, I thought it doesn't really matter too much if they're ahead of me as long as I'm sort of ahead of Underhill. I didn't want to try and fight Phillips and Bart too much because the rate Underhill was catching us, he'd have been right there in the battle as well and get past me.
Of course, these 2-hour races are very different to the 20-minute races. Were you able to keep your concentration high throughout? It seemed pretty intense, so I guess that helped quite a bit.
Yeah, endurance racing is what I sort of do better at. I don't have great single lap pace, but I feel I've got pretty good racecraft, and it shows in the endurance races because guys that are normally quicker than me tend to go off, have a crash, whatever, and I can sort of make up ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think you'll be able to do similar at Suzuka in 2 weeks' time? Of course, we do have 2 weeks' time. What will your mentality be towards that? Will you do 2 weeks of practice maybe for Suzuka, get really prepped for that? Or will you maybe even look forward to the other races in the schedule? Or will you just take a week off this next 7 days?
We're just going to, as a team, just keep trying to improve him. We are making improvements every week. We've got a lot of enduro stuff coming up in terms of the iRacing officials and a couple of private endurance events at Bathurst and Sebring. So got to squeeze as many of those in as we can. So Suzuka might go on the back burner next week, and then we'll sort of hit it towards the end of the week in preparation.
Yeah, absolutely. We hope to see you back in a couple of weeks, although I'm sure we'll see you back in the next few days on Apex Racing TV at least. Before we let you go, Michael, anyone you'd like to thank?
All the admins for putting this on, all the hard work they do. They don't get enough of a mention. Without the work they do, we wouldn't have this series. It really is one of the best out there. All the guys racing in it for keeping it clean and making it as intense as it is. You guys for the excellent broadcast, and Simortal, Drive Doctors, and Dragon Internet.
Thanks, Michael, and we'll see you very soon on Apex Racing TV.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
And thanks to Michael as well. And well, Sam, we started out this broadcast thinking it was 3 races. Well, I thought it was 3 races, and it was daytime outside.
Oh,
now,
I did as well.
Now it's pitch black, and I've just had to close the reverse squid wheel because we won't be needing that. And yeah, it's been a different race meeting, say the least, because of the Enduro race format. But one team that's definitely taken full advantage is Core Sim Racing with a 1-2 finish for Sindre Sass and Carl Janssen.
Yeah, and I think they really showed off how quick they are in terms of ultimate pace, and being able to convert that pace into 2 hours of racing really does take different skills to 20 minutes. In 20 minutes you can kind of get away with not necessarily being the quickest driver, but maybe getting a bit fortunate with a bit of traffic, getting good racecraft. And of course, whilst Setsas and Janssen had excellent racecraft as well, today they just were a step above everyone else. Maybe Josh Thompson could have fought with them. Of course, ended up only half a minute off the lead, but it was a superb race up then. Fascinating with the strategy. A little bit unfortunate that I don't think we could fully appreciate it. We weren't quite sure what was going on in terms of the strategies, but with drivers taking the left side tyres and all 4 tyres at different points in the race, absolutely fascinating. And of course, whilst we're looking forward to Suzuka in 2 weeks' time, also looking forward to the couple of other Enduros we have across the season.
Yeah, we've got 2 more of them to come here in the World GT Championship. And of course, here on the iRacing Esports Network, we'll be bringing you them all as well. There'll be coverage on Apex Racing TV of more series as well over the next few days. In fact, coming up in just under 2 hours' time, we've got round 2 of the Ritmatech Sports Car Series coming to you. That should be good. Join me for that one. I'll be going up through the night with Tyler Vickery for that one. So if you do want to stay up and watch some more iRacing action, that's where you can find us for that. But my thanks to Sam for joining me on the latest round of the World GT Championship. And yeah, we'll be off for a week next week, but in 2 weeks we'll be back for 3 20-minute sprint races around the Suzuka International Circuit in Japan. Should be a good one. Make sure you join us for it. We'll be live at 8:10 GMT for that one as the World GT Championship continues. But for now, from all of us here at Sebring International Raceway, it was going so well. Bye for now.